The witch begins to cast her spell in the midst of crackling firewood, engraving a curse not upon the sun nor the moon, but upon the sky itself. A curse destined to endure eternally, even should the sun rise again. She chants of eternal life granted to those who cherish truth, and oblivion to those who turn a blind eye. Cut to a modern scene. Jihi enthusiastically waves a fantasy novel poster in front of her mother, hyping it with more passion than a festival announcer. Jung squints at the poster, deems it pretty, and asks the all-important question, what is it about? And here Jihi is glowing with pride as she reveals that it's her novel. Yes, her novel. Launching today. And that fabulous cover, drawn by a truly famous artist, took her half a year just to get the slot. Her mother, ever the realist, asks the dreaded question, is this a good one, or just another one of her daughter's silly stories? Unfazed, Jihi launches into a passionate flex about her protagonist, Dalia, declaring that the blonde girl on the cover is Dalia, the heroine. Born a poor orphan, Dalia doesn't give in to fate. Her natural beauty and bold demeanor gather the attention of many handsome men, like moths to a literary flame. The mother, supremely unimpressed, asks if Jihi is coming to the retirement ceremony later, as if the heroine's romantic journey couldn't possibly compare to real-life logistics. Jihi yells in protest, asking Jung to at least listen to her story properly. Her inner monologue spins in despair, while her mother once again inquires if she's coming or not. Jihi isn't sure, Jung apparently taking this as a yes, says she's left a dress hanging out for her to wear but not to take the car since the roads are blocked. Cue immediate Jihi distress. That dress? Absolutely not her style. It looks like she's borrowing someone else's identity. Jung insists it's never even been worn, and demands to know why Jihi makes a fuss about everything. Jihi claps back, saying if her mom likes the dress so much, she should wear it herself. Jung scoffs internally, thinking if she could still fit into it, she would have worn it long ago. Meanwhile, the grand retirement ceremony unfolds. Professor Jung is being called to the stage. Her life as a historian ends today. A certificate is presented with much pomp, and everyone takes pride in her 20-year contribution to the department. Everyone, that is, except Jung, who's already wondering what on earth she'll do now. Then comes the photo. As the camera flashes, she notices something, or rather, someone in the audience. Her daughter, wearing that dress. Victory tastes vaguely like polyester. At the bus stop, Jung casually tells Jihi to stop using her phone before she ruins her eyes. Jihi, true to form, ignores her like a perfectly trained brat. Jung comments that the dress actually looks good on her. Jihi, embarrassed, mutters that she wore it only because it's her mother's retirement day. Jung, wistfully nostalgic, recalls how she used to envy girls who could wear dresses when she was young. Jihi replies that she could still wear them now. But no, says Jung, only people who look good in dresses should wear them, and even in college, Jung had a flat top. Changing subjects at lightning speed, Jihi randomly asks Jung if a duke ranks higher than a baron. Jung, barely batting an eyelid, asks if this is about the 5 noble titles. Jung confirms, obviously, duke is the highest, baron the lowest. Panic sets in, because, of course, she thought barons ranked higher. And now her novel has a glaring noble-ranking catastrophe. She spiraled forward in ignorance and wrote it all wrong. Jung finds this hilarious. She laughs like someone who's just watched a dog open a sliding door. She asks if Jihi had been dozing off in history class. Jihi, trying very hard to deflect, is clearly guilty. Jung scoffs she should have just asked her. Jihi protests that she did, but Jung always gave vague, wishy-washy answer. Jung claps back that she should have at least looked it up properly, done some fundamental cross-checking. The daughter mutters that she couldn't think straight. The deadline was near. Jung now delivers the classic academic rant. Authors should be meticulous. They must revise, re-research, reword. A proper article is crafted, not scribbled like a grocery list. Only writings forged in effort last through generations. Jihi, emotionally frayed, screams that she doesn't care. If even one person is consoled by her writing, then she'll keep doing it. She writes for that person. Just one is enough. Jung, unimpressed, tells her to be quiet, because that one person is probably laughing at her right now. And please, don't tell anyone she's the daughter of a history professor. A mistake like confusing a duke and baron? Disgraceful! Jihi rises in a storm of anger, screaming that she is stupid. That's why she makes mistakes. Not everyone can be a certified genius with jumbo-sized brain cells. Maybe she's just like her dad, a man whose face and name she never even knew. And now, the fatal line. She shouts that she won't tell anyone she's Jung's daughter. Jung tries to stop her. Jihi, sobbing, tells her that she knows every word Jung said is right, but asks if, just once, she could put it aside and comfort her instead. Just Once. Just this once. She cries, asking if Jung really isn't her mom. And then she runs. Jung screams after her, "Jihi!" But the red light is on. The bus is barreling forward. Jung's eyes widen. Not like this. Not after she's protected her all her life. Not now. She pushes Jihi out of the way and takes the hit. Jihi turns. Her eyes widen. Her mouth trembles. Her mother lies in the street. Jung smiles faintly, relieved that she at least saved her daughter. She begins to open her eyes again, dazed. She hears Jihi's voice, calling to her. But something is off. People are surrounding her, but they're wearing odd clothes. Is there some kind of parade going on? A guard barks at her about some insolent crime. Jung, groggy and unimpressed, demands to know what's wrong with this old man. The man gasps in offense, old man? He calls her a peasant. Peasant? She hasn't heard that word since the textbook on feudal Europe. Now she gets it. She turns to the man, declaring that she's not an idiot, she's hearing him just fine. If he talks nicely, she'll respond nicely. It's not like she chose to appear here. She apologizes for interrupting their filming or reenactment or whatever weird thing this is. She even asks politely if they've seen her daughter, who was right there a moment ago. The guard grabs her, calls her a little punk. Excuse me? A what? She's about to let him have it when she catches a glimpse of herself. In the reflection of a knight's armor, she stares, then stares harder. She pushes the guard away and examines her hands, then her hair. Oh no, she's been reincarnated. As Dalia, the knights shout at Dalia with thunderous outrage, accusing her of not only daring to step on the Duke's cloak, but now of assaulting a knight as well. Dalia, whose mental tabs are very much out of order, has absolutely no idea what's going on. Again, one knight barks that she should be grateful of all things, that their master is the Duke. Had she stolen a cloak belonging to a baron instead, her neck would have been introduced to a sword faster than she could spell oops. One knight mutters furiously that it's all Molton's fault. If Molton hadn't taken credit for the Duke's deed, then their Duke would have been awarded the title of Baron, not that fraud Molton. Dalia, who hears all this as though she's eavesdropping on a badly written soap opera, starts to laugh, like full-on cackling. She questions the sanity of every individual present, then launches into a short, impromptu history lecture, explaining that obviously a Duke ranks higher than a Baron, and Barons are the lowest on the peerage ladder. She laughs harder. These people are just like Jihi, her daughter. Loud, proud, and confidently incorrect. Unfortunately, her comedy hour is cut short when a knight pushes her to the ground. Sure, maybe she won't be executed for stepping on a cloak but insulting the Duke. Now that's crossing the line. A whole gang of knights suddenly decide she's a piñata and start raining blows on her. She shouts at them that it hurts as if they didn't know. And, shockingly, no one cares. Her eyes lock with the Duke himself, who stares at her with a very dignified, very pissed-off expression. She gets kicked in the ribs, and just about everywhere else. Enough is enough. She rises to her feet, brushing off bruises and ego alike, and announces she gets it. The Duke is a noble. She stepped on his cloak. Very tragic. She apologizes. But she also questions loudly, dramatically, and with hands flying, whether this level of public beatdown was really necessary. In broad daylight? For everyone to see? She says any random passerby would think she'd committed murder, not minor wardrobe manslaughter. She turns to the crowd and scolds them with the fury of a mother who found an empty cookie jar. Were they seriously just going to stand there while she was pulverized into street jam? No concern, no conscience, just vibes? Then she faces the Duke himself and calls him out like he's a naughty schoolboy. She tells him he didn't even flinch, while his knights were turning her into minced heroin. She says her tiny little misstep on his precious hemline apparently shattered his noble pride. She tells him to get over it. Yes, get over it. She calls him a brat, a grown-up brat, a miser for making such a royal fuss. Then, with the energy of someone who just dropped the mic, she turns and dashes off as if absolutely none of this was her fault. The knights, predictably, want to chase her down. But the Duke, who now remembers he has a very important meeting, waves a hand and tells them to let her go. One of the knights grumbles that letting her off like this is a mistake. What will people think? The Duke's reputation might actually suffer. Tragic. Meanwhile, Dalia, currently hiding in the shadows like a bruised, sarcastic ninja, is wondering what the hell just happened. If she'd been hit by that knight's giant axe, she would have been skewered like a kebab. She examines her scraped-up palms and wonders how any sane person can hit a tiny girl with that much enthusiasm. Then she catches her reflection in a puddle. For a moment, she forgets everything. She remembers the retirement ceremony. She remembers saving Jihi. And then, the crash. Now she's here. But this isn't a dream. No, it's too vivid, too painful, too real. She isn't a child, but she's in the body of one. She examines her hair, her face. They seem familiar. Could it be? Could this really be Dalia? Her head spins as two girls run up to her, calling out to her. She stares at them. What? They call her Dalia. And suddenly, everything starts to click like puzzle pieces snapping into place. A cold winter night. A child abandoned in a stable. Surviving by eating trash and leftovers. This poor, wandering little troublemaker. This is Dalia. The Dalia from Jihi's novel. And today, in the plaza, this very Dalia just accidentally stepped on Duke Farrell's cloak. Had it belonged to a lesser noble, say, a baron, or, worse, the emperor, she would have probably lost her head. Doors never opened for her. Fancy dresses, embroidered gowns, treasures of gold and silver. Those were things other people got to have. Not Dalia. Not her. Her two little friends urge her to hurry. One of them warns her to be cautious around a guy with red eyes. Cryptic. Definitely ominous. Then the two dash off. Dalia -- formerly Professor Young starts to genuinely panic. What is Dalia, she thinks. Her thoughts spiral like a tornado. She remembers Jihi showing her the novel, showing her Dalia as Stoff. And now she is Dalia? Before she can process this existential crisis properly, she sees knights running in her direction again. They're clearly looking to finish what they started. She yelps something that roughly translates to nope, and starts running like her life depends on it because, well, it kind of does. Just as she rounds the corner, someone grabs her from behind, claps a hand over her mouth, and pulls her into the shadows. It's a man in a hood. He leans in close and tells her quietly but firmly not to make a sound. This man tells herself to hold on for a bit. She again covers his face. Dalia is able to smell a faint vanilla scent coming from him. The knight orders half of them to search in that direction, and when they leave, the guy lets Dalia go. She asks him, quite aggressively, what the hell he's doing popping up out of the blue, but then realizes, oh wait, he actually helped her. So awkwardly, she thanks him. He looks at her like she's the weird one, and says something along the lines of, why is she thanking him when the knights were clearly after him? Then, before she can ask further, he runs, jumps onto the roof like he moonlights as a squirrel, and behaves with a kind of melodramatic flourish that screams, wanted thief with theatrical tendency. Dalia, of course, shouts after him, what the hell has he stolen now? And like a smooth-talking Rizzler straight out of a badly written romance, he shouts back that the only thing he's ever stolen is a girl's heart. She stands there, speechless, absolutely floored. Unbelievable. This is something she never imagined seeing with her own eyes. Is she in a dream? A play? Someone's prank show? No, wait. She starts to wonder if she's actually inside her last daughter's novel. Because this feels nothing like the world she knows. Whatever this place is, there's no way of knowing what happened to the real Young. She starts to worry, will Jihi be all right? After all, she had prepared deposits, insurance, and even severance pay, so her daughter wouldn't have to worry about basic livelihood. Responsible parenting, check. Then there's that man, the one who dropped her apple. Dalia calls out to him, asking for it back. But he says, rather rudely, that she can eat it sitting. As she stares at the apple, she can't help but think, wow, she never thought that the weird, careless way she threw it at her would be our last conversation. She sincerely hopes Jihi doesn't take those words to heart. Dalia's head is full of questions and regrets, but the past has happened, and she can't turn back time. So she decides to be hopeful. After all, it's not like she has anything to do after retirement. She figures it's better than flailing around her house aimlessly. Plus, this young body, it's got vigor, appetite. Her whole being is brimming with energy. This youthful metabolism can get hyped up just from eating an apple. Amazing. Being able to experience this again actually feels nice, and she decides she's going to relish this youth to the fullest. But to do that, first things first, she has to figure out how this place works. The language here doesn't seem different from Korean. She sounds the same, and no one's reacting strangely to her speech. Also, there are no lavish high-rise buildings in the vicinity. These are clearly not catered to the luxury elite, but to the ordinary working class. Judging from the architectural style and the people's clothing, this place looks like it's modeled after some vague mishmash of middle to modern age Europe. There's a tax system in place, though it's a bit disorderly. She guesses it's feudalism. And her? Dalia is an orphan. No food, no clothing, no shelter. She hits herself on the forehead. There must be something. Even if it's a coin, then she realizes, yes! There's a pendant around her neck, basically. She has nothing useful. With a sigh, she takes the pendant off and puts it in her pocket. She cannot believe she was born a peasant in this life. Harsh. Absolutely brutal. She asks one of the men around what this place is. His reaction is like she just asked him how many marks he got on his last exam. Dalia wonders if maybe it was a weird question. Honestly, she herself would have felt pretty weird if some random person in her old life came up to her and asked, "Hey, what year is this?" She hatches a plan. She approaches a man who's smoking and casually says that she's not good at counting. What year will it be after 15 more years? The man squints at her and says it's currently 351 in the imperial calendar. So 15 years ago would have been 336. Dalia nods to herself. Okay, so this isn't AD. It's some kind of imperial calendar. Interesting. She starts to butter him up, saying he must be super smart, probably knows a lot about politics too. He, slightly flattered, admits that he does keep up with world affairs. Trying to squeeze more tea out of him, she casually asks about the neighboring country. She's heard some things in passing. The man squints again, asking which country she's talking about. There are more than one or two, after all. Having no clue, Dalia just says, above. He asks if she's talking about Georgia. He tells her there's an uproar. People have been flocking over the Imperium's border recently. Dalia puts the pieces together. Georgia must want to cross over into Imperium, the name of this country. If people are willing to abandon their homeland to come here, that must mean things are better in Imperium. The man, however, scoffs that it's troublesome. They should have just stayed put. But he's sure they'll eventually crawl into the capital. Dalia thinks it sounds like this country has a significantly larger land area. And over here is the capital of Imperium. Public order is in ruins. Many people have even lost their jobs. The man adds that if it keeps up like this, he'd rather close the borders. Dalia decides this must be his personal opinion. Hostile. Not exactly fact-checked, so she doesn't take every word at face value. She asks him one last thing. Where can she earn some money? The man scoffs, calls her bold. Not only is she asking random questions about here and there, now she wants to make money? Suspicious? Then he shouts that he knows. She's an entrant. Dalia panics and starts to run, insisting she's not, while a bunch of people start running after her. Poor Dalia runs for her life. Eventually, she loses them. Then she hears someone saying, "Give the guy some flowers." Her eyes widen. Before her is a lavish bazaar, and beautiful girls in pretty dresses. Everything sparkles. A luxurious scene unfolds. The girls whisper amongst themselves, telling each other to keep it down, or Countess Chelsea might hear them. Meanwhile, Dalia stands there, mouth wide open, gawking at the ridiculously pretty place, like she's just stepped into a fantasy novel. Dalia looks around, eyes scanning her surroundings like a seasoned merchant appraising potential markets. This one looks loaded with money, she notes, comparing it to the more humble neighbors. And with that, she rolls up her metaphorical sleeves, time to find a job. She spots some girls nearby, trying to sell flowers. As Dalia eyes the flowers, an idea pops into her brain like a light bulb in a cartoon. Capital-free, creative economy, she thinks, grinning like a startup founder about to pitch on Shark Tank. She notices that the girls seem worried their flowers are all withered already. One girl gets scoffed at by another who had clearly warned her not to pluck all the flowers at once, but to do it gradually. Naturally, a petty argument breaks out before they flounce away like a gang of disgruntled fairy tale extras. Dalia follows them because, of course she does. She finds them again in a flower field, clearly relieved to see the blooms have regrown. They start picking the flowers again, probably praying to the flower gods that this time they last longer. Dalia calls out to them ignored, so she plops herself down beside them and asks if they're picking flowers for sewing, and how much they sell one stalk for. She's about to leave when curiosity wins again, and she asks which flower sells the best. Instead of offering retail insights, the girls shove her and tell her to get lost. Dalia, affronted and now mildly dirty, yells back, demanding to know what they're doing. One of the girls yells that this is their turf, and if Dalia wants flowers, she should go somewhere else. Dalia, holding back her frustration, asks if they're some kind of floral thugs. She grits her teeth. She really shouldn't be fighting with kids. Before things escalate into petal-based warfare, a girl comes from behind and tells Dalia that if she wants flowers, she can pick some outside the west gate. It's actually pretty far, she says, so no one goes there often. She was heading that way herself. Touched by this sudden act of kindness, Dalia, eyes sparkling like a K-drama protagonist, asks if she can tag along. Dalia, teary-eyed, agrees. She can tell Dalia has clearly been through a lot. She says she's never seen Dalia around before and offers to lend her a basket. Dalia introduces herself. The girl does too. Her name is Beluchcci. Dalia, being Dalia, immediately guesses that Beluchcci must be from Italy. Beluchcci, not knowing what Italy is, stares blankly. Dalia awkwardly brushes it off. Never mind, different world, different reference points. The two of them pick enough flowers to rival a wedding bouquet sale and head back down the road. The competition is fierce. The place is swarming with flower sellers. Dalia sees immediately that trying to force people to buy won't work, so she switches gears. She calls out to a lady who gets annoyed right away and says she doesn't need any flowers. Dalia doesn't back down. She praises the lady's dress and casually plucks a flower onto it, declaring that now it looks even better. The lady looks down. "Well, would you look at that?" She agrees. "It does look nicer. In fact, it would look good on her hat too." She beams, declaring that it's a flower for a flower, and decides to take 5. Dalia flexes. "This is how business is done, people." The lady then asks the fatal question, "How much is it?" Dalia freezes. "Currency? What currency?" "Market price. What market price?" She flounders and says she's not good at counting. The lady holds out some money anyway, saying, "This much?" But the lady presses again. "Which coin is it?" She can only pay Dalia properly if she knows. Turns out, the lady's never bought flowers in her life either. Dalia panics. She tells her she can pay however much she wants. Suddenly, chaos. All the other sellers storm in, shouting, "It's 5 ferrum per flower." They begin cursing the poor lady, as if she just committed the sin of lowballing in the sacred flower bazaar. Dalia snaps at them. This is her customer. She glances at the other flower sellers. Their clothes are dirty. Their faces are tired. Dalia, suddenly feeling pity, walks away. She's met Beluchcci during these bizarre times without knowing anything, not even the market price. Is she out of her mind? She thinks about that stock of flower 5 ferrum. Ferrum means iron in Latin. Iron coins, cheap, easily corroded, low in value, but easy to reproduce. There must be coins made of gold or silver that hold much higher value. Come to think of it, Latin seems to be everywhere here. The country is called Imperium, also Latin. That brat daughter of her really did her research before writing this novel, Dalia thinks. A moment of amusement, then, oh no! A dreadful thought crosses her mind. Where is she supposed to sleep? Dalia realizes she has no place to stay. She needs to earn money. Fast. She can't rely on selling flowers. There's zero competitive advantage. Anyone can pick them. She has to come up with a new strategy. Then she spots an incomplete building. Construction seems to have stopped midway. The place is a mess. At the very least, they could have cleaned it up. She notices a pair of gloves nearby, and an idea pops into her head. Cue scene change. Some girls are crying. Why isn't anyone buying their flowers? Suddenly, they hear murmurs ladies are edging towards something. They say they have to go before the flowers wither. The girls hear the word flowers and sprint toward the crowd. When they arrive, the place is buzzing. There's even a tent. One of the girls spots Beluchcci. Beluchcci is standing confidently and calls out, "Next in line!" as a lady exits the tent. The lady next in line asks if it was really as good as the rumors say. The exiting customer gives a solid thumbs up, making everyone gasp in excitement. Beluchcci turns to the next lady and tells her to enter the tent and leave the money inside. The woman steps in, hesitant. Is this really trustworthy? Inside the tent, she sees flowers, fresh, vibrant, not withered at all. And there is Dalia, disguised as a mysterious flower alchemist, smiling serenely, ready to conquer the economy. The scene shifts as Dalia rushes toward Beluchcci, panting and visibly agitated. She says she hit something, but her words falter when she notices Beluchcci sitting on the ground, tears streaming down her face. Dalia hurries to her and asks what's wrong. Beluchcci, sobbing, says she only managed to sell 2 stalks of flowers all day. Her mother will surely hit her again if she returns home like this. Dalia grabs her by the shoulders and urges her to listen carefully. She tells her she has a plan. She's going to set up a tent and do something that will help them earn far more than they could by simply selling flowers. She asks Beluchcci if she's willing to join her. With the help of the young energy, the two of them manage to raise the tent. Beluchcci, watching Dalia pull on a pair of gloves despite the heat, questions her why wear gloves in such sweltering weather. She is worried, why is she wasting time as they both need to sell the flower before sunset? Dalia, curious, poses the question again. What is the function of gloves? She answers gloves protect the hands from the cold, from harsh work, and from injury during a fight. She even mentions that she's seen nobles wear them. Dalia pats her approvingly for the thoughtful answer, though Beluchcci now grows worried, wondering if Dalia is about to do something dangerous. Dalia asks if Beluchcci can help her tie a hood, but Beluchcci lacks anything to fasten it with. Dalia then considers using her pendant to tie it. As she begins to fasten it, she asks Beluchcci if she has done anything besides selling flowers. Beluchcci admits she often doesn't even get a proper meal. Dalia then explains that one's hands can tell much about the life they've lived. By simply looking at someone's hands, one can discern whether they are a girl, a boy, a woman, or a man. One can even gauge their health and their profession. She notes that Beluchci's hands are somewhat rough, but lack calluses. The uneven surface of her fingernails reveals a lack of protein. Her hands, Dalia says, hold far more information than even her body. Everything from how one speaks, dresses, and walks can be deduced. Then, emerging from the tent, Dalia now reveals herself dressed in a mysterious attire, asking Beluchcci if she still looks like a child. From this moment forward, she declares, she will act as an adult possessing mystical power. But to do so, she will need Beluchci's help. She instructs her to go into the street and find a woman wearing the most beautiful dress, yet hiding a fake expression. Beluchcci is to approach her and say a single phrase. Dalia is certain that the lady will follow. Eventually, Beluchcci returns, surprised that the lady actually followed her. She expresses doubt, saying that a single customer won't be enough. But Dalia smiles, one is more than enough. According to that person, everything will be fine. And as Dalia predicts, the woman soon begins spreading word to her friends, saying that thanks to this fortune-telling, she is finally able to rest. She hadn't been able to sleep for days. She tells others they need to visit that place too. Beluchcci, back in the present, thinks that everything is happening just as Dalia said. There are now many customers. The lady inside the tent comments with fascination that they've never had a fortune teller in their town before. She asks which district Dalia is from. Dalia, acting her role fully, says vaguely that as someone blessed with mystical power, she barely remembers where she's been or where she's going. Dalia begins to notice that the woman speaks only in riddles and irrelevant details. She wonders if the woman is testing her abilities or simply making things difficult. The lady remarks that the air inside the tent is quite stuffy and suggests they move elsewhere, saying nobles are quite sensitive to such things. Dalia notices her ring. It's unusually thin and far too simple for a young noblewoman. Then she recognizes it. A Gimmel ring. The Gimmel ring is a first-rate engagement ring, popular during the medieval era. It consists of 3 separate rings that interlock into one. Each person receives 1 ring, 1 for the groom, 1 for the bride, and the 3rd for a witness. Eventually, the rings are combined, forming a single piece that the bride wears on her left hand forever. Dalia informs the lady that a prophecy hangs over her. If she's curious, she can place a coin in the bucket. The woman scoffs she hasn't said a single word, and yet Dalia claims to read her fate. She stands to leave, declaring that she knew this was a fraud and a scammer. Dalia, maintaining her eerie presence, speaks in a voice laced with false demonic tone, saying that on the day the woman was made, 3 people shed tears, 2 tears of joy, and 1 tear of blood. The words halt the woman in her tracks. Shocked, she asks how Dalia knew this. Dalia smiles with calm certainty. This, she says, is the power of mystical energy. The lady asks Dalia who she is. Dalia, with her usual calm air, remarks that the ring she carries is remarkably beautiful. It looks far too important to simply be lost while wandering. She suspects the woman wanted to lose it. She observes that she knows this woman has once witnessed a marriage she had wished never took place. Even if it was called an affair, it was the lady herself who chose silence. The lady says that she is the first person who noticed the ring and acknowledged it. Dalia gestures for the woman to come and sit, asking her to listen to a story. The lady begins slowly, sharing that she has an older sister, 2 years her senior. Since childhood, her sister had been best friends with the stable keeper. They remained inseparable, even as they grew older. One day, an old duke saw a portrait of her sister and proposed marriage. She refused, stating plainly that he was not to her liking. However, their father ignored her wishes and arranged the marriage regardless. On her wedding day, her sister disappeared, vanishing without a trace, along with the stable keeper. They were never found, despite searching every nook and cranny. Everyone assumed her sister was so distraught over the marriage that she took her own life. Yet, the woman never gave up. She remembered how her sister had once told her she dreamed of living in a house with an ocean view. Half a year later, she found her sister in a seaside cabin. She had cried and apologized as soon as she saw her, only for the stable keeper to come running out behind the house, holding a small box. He declared they would soon have a grand wedding ceremony and asked her to witness their engagement pledge. She had been ready to leave, too stunned to believe what was happening. But her sister held her hand and cried. She told her that she was expecting a child. Left with no other choice, the lady stayed. Dalia asks her if she had ever told their parents about her sister's whereabouts. The lady says no. Dalia then instructs her to place her hand in the box, saying that the divine revelation is already clear. She adds that there's no need to try and move others. because everything is already in its proper place. All that remains is for her to stay still. At this, the lady slams the door, shouting that it's all lies. She declares her sister is the daughter of a viscount, raised with the finest food and the best clothes. Dalia, in her eyes, had no right to bring her home. The moment she saw her sister again, she should have said something. If she were truly that opposed to her sister's marriage, she would have thrown the ring into the river long ago. If she really wished for her sister to return, she would have informed their parents. If she truly hated the stable keeper, she would have hired someone to beat him senseless. Dalia understands now. What the woman truly struggles with is her concern for her sister and the frustration of keeping it all to herself. She adds that it might look like hell through her eyes, but perhaps it is heaven to her sister. If it ever becomes too difficult, she can always help her. But above all else, she must learn to respect her sister's decision. That is the only way either of them will find happiness. Just then, a cutscene plays. A new customer arrives, stunned, and asks Dalia how she knows all this. She thinks to herself that the answer is obvious. It's evident in their posture, their physique, and their rigid attitude. Even though generations change over time, the way people live hardly does. Only a few decades pass, yet people continue to regret the past, worry about the future, and suffer in pursuit of what they cannot have. People constantly question things they already know the answers to. Even the figurines they bring with them speak volumes. She reflects that people come to places like this because they want comfort. She acknowledges that she can now say all these insightful things to others, but wonders silently why she couldn't say them to her own daughter. Suddenly, someone calls out, asking if she's going to read their fortune. Snapped from her thoughts, she turns to the voice and tells him to take a seat. His voice sounds young to her, and she immediately senses that it must be the kind of voice that has made many girls cry. She jokingly asks him if he's looking for true love. She notes his well-balanced shoulders. His clothes appear fancy at first, but on closer look they're not lavish. They must be a uniform. She mocks him lightly, saying he must care a lot about his reputation. But the moment her eyes meet the Duke's, she is stunned. The Duke says that he is curious about the mystical sorcery she is always speaking about. She clears her throat and says that a prophecy will arise only when he desires to know something. She then asks him what it is that he wants to know. He remains silent, his expression marked by misery. She assumes, then, that he must be wondering about today's future. The Duke takes off her hood. The knight enters the tent, informing the Duke that the territory management has never granted permission for their operation. The knight then notices Dalia. The Duke asks him if he knows her. As the knight finds Dalia strangely familiar, Beluchcci is now hiding behind Dalia. When Dalia asks why someone of high status would be here, the Duke asks her if she has received permission. He reminds her that it's necessary to obtain authorization before conducting business, and if she submits a written letter to the government office, they will grant her permission. Dalia sighs, frustrated that no one told her such a difficult process was required. She assures them that she will shut down her business immediately. As they are about to take their leave, the knight finally recognizes her. He says she is the girl who once stepped on his cloak. Dalia thinks to herself that this is ridiculous, and says she doesn't remember anything of that sort happening in her life. Yet the knight is sure judging by the way she speaks. Dalia turns to Beluchcci and asks her if she is ready to run. They both bolt like rats escaping from cats. The knight shouts to his men not to let her get away this time. The Duke, finished with all of this, gazes to the side, and there he sees Dalia's pendant. He picks it up. Meanwhile, the knights have lost Dalia. She sits, catching her breath, pondering just how long she will have to keep running like this. Beluchcci tells Dalia that she's quite a good runner. Suddenly, a thought crosses Dalia's mind. She forgot to pick up the bag of coins. She starts cursing herself, thinking she must be out of her mind to forget something so important. But Beluchcci brings forward the pouch, telling her she took it while Dalia was grabbing her hand, afraid that the men would take it from them. Dalia starts praising her for her quick thinking. Avoiding the guards was no small feat. She then asks how much they made. Beluchcci answers that the total is 2 aurum and 803 ferium, just as she expected. Gold, silver, and iron in Latin. 1 coin of a higher blue equals 10 coins of a lower value. It's not that different from how real money is calculated, but seeing how aurum is valued separately, Dalia concludes it must be worth 10 silver coins. Suddenly, the flower-selling girls come to them and beg for forgiveness for chasing them earlier from their field and for even stealing their customers. They say it was because they were in desperate need of money and had to sell flowers or starve another day. They confess that they want to become as good as Dalia in business. Dalia asks Beluchcci if she can show her the best restaurant around. Now heading to a decent place, Beluchcci asks if Dalia is sure they can enter such an establishment. The manager welcomes them. Dalia goes ahead and says to the manager that she would like a table for 7 people. The manager scoffs, asking where they got the money from. This makes Dalia really angry. She wants to know what the manager is implying. The manager says that she knows who they are. They're the flower-selling girls. She asks if they really think there's anyone in the neighborhood who doesn't know them, and questions how they can afford to eat in such a place. Then she tells them to scram, or she'll call the guards. Beluchcci says to Dalia that they should just go. Dalia, ever the idealist, thinks she can't even imagine this turn of events. Even after working so hard to earn money, who would have thought they'd be questioned about the source of it? She informs the manager that they didn't steal any of the money. The manager, ever the professional skeptic, demands proof. Dalia, unfazed, points toward a lady across the street and claims the money was donated by her. That lady, now suddenly thrust into the role of philanthropic surprise guest star, nearly chokes on air from the shock of being mentioned. Dalia thanks her gratefully, dramatically, and with just the right touch of emotional blackmail, because thanks to her, even poor street kids like them can enjoy a nice dinner. The lady, still catching her breath, attempts to clarify that perhaps they've got the wrong person. But Dalia has already shifted into motivational speaker mode, turning to her friends and asking what on earth they're doing standing around. Shouldn't they be showing gratitude to this glorious benefactor? Naturally, all the girls proceed to thank the stunned lady like she's a patron saint of meat platters. The lady tries again more insistently this time, to point out that she thinks they've mistaken her for someone else. But before she can complete her sentence, even her friends begin praising her for her noble act of helping children. The lady, cornered and glorified beyond escape, gives in with the enthusiasm of a soggy biscuit and tells the kids to enjoy their party. The manager, now somehow inspired or perhaps defeated by this absurdly heartwarming moment, shows them to a seat. Dalia turns to her friend, triumphantly declaring that they can now eat whatever they want. After all, eating plenty is essential for growing up, something she says, with the sage wisdom of a grandmother crossed with a motivational coach. After a hearty meal, the girls thank Dalia for leading them to such fine cuisine and vow to sell flowers just like she told them to. Dalia then gets into logistics mode, asking everyone to show their earnings. She instructs them not to hand the money over to their families but to save it for the inevitable rainy days, when flower sales dry up and tears threaten to fall like melodramatic raindrops. Dalia gives Beluchcci money too, but instead of a few coins like the others, she slides 2 gold coins into her palm and whispers a thank you, like a secret agent handing off intel. Then, she departs with the elegance of a queen, telling them to go home. Their little eyes must be worrying their parents by now. All the girls, moved and slightly confused, think she reminds them of their grandmother. Beluchcci on her way back feels content. With the money she has now, she figures she won't have to worry, even if she doesn't sell flowers for a few days. She might even save a bit. Dreams! But dreams are short-lived. Beluchcci returns home, only to be greeted by the sight of a man. Her mother, who has the hospitality of a frozen fork, tells the man that Beluchcci is her maid. The man, shocked to his very soul, wonders how someone like her even has a maid. Beluchci's mother, ever the embodiment of grace and tact, tells the man to get lost if he's done because she has to leave for a banquet. A banquet? The man gapes like a fish. A count's banquet? He looks like he's about to ask questions, but Beluchci's mom cuts him off, declaring that even if she had told him about her uterus, what would he have done? Then she adds a poetic scram, followed by a monologue about not coming back to her ever again. Beluchcci watches silently, knowing full well that in 2 days, that man will come crawling back on his knees, with perhaps flowers, maybe tears. Then comes the existential question of the hour. Beluchcci asks her if she is really a maid to her mother. Her mom, not one for subtleties, reminds her that she's already told her not to come home when customers are around. What if someone finds out she has a child? Will Beluchcci take responsibility if she loses her job? Unlikely. So, no, don't show up. Then she asks the next logical thing, how much money Beluchcci made today. Beluchcci, trying her best to present good news, gives her a few coins. Her mom sniffs. Literally. Then she asks if Beluchcci ate meat. Beluchcci lights up like a lantern. She's thrilled her mom knows. She blurts that she ate at the best restaurant. The meat was divine. Her mom, instead of joining the excitement, pulls her daughter's hair, with the fury of a woman scorned. How dare she eat meat, she essentially says, while her mother is out there selling her soul in installments. She slaps her for good measure, as if moral clarity is best delivered with a side of physical assault, and demands to know how much money Beluchcci really made. Where's the rest of it? Beluchcci pleads innocence, saying her friend paid, but her mother is not buying the fairy tale. She scoffs, claiming Beluchcci has no friends and accusing her of lying. As Beluchcci tries to explain, The money she saved for herself falls out of her pocket like a tragic plot twist. Her mom scoffs louder. What kind of friend feeds you and gives you money? Beluchcci insists it's not what she thinks. Her mom disagrees with her hand. She slaps her, picks up the money, and declares that Beluchcci has only learned bad habits from going outside. Then, in true villain monologue fashion, she announces she'll be back tomorrow, and Beluchcci better have the laundry done. She doesn't care where she got the money from. Sleep with a man if she must, but don't lie. She hates liars. Cue scene change. Dalia now appears at an inn, telling the lady she'll be staying for the night. The lady, who has business on her mind, informs her that the cost will be 400 firium, breakfast included. Dalia, channeling her inner negotiator, says that's too much and suggests they cut it down just a little. The innkeeper graciously lowers it to 300. Dalia checks her pocket like a desperate gambler. It's empty. Now she sits outside, alone in the cold night, having one of those I've made a huge mistake moments. She knows she needs to quit the flower-selling shop. It's too much hassle. She even stole jobs from kids. And let's not talk about the government permit bureaucracy is a beast. Making money is too hard. Eating money is too easy. She spent more than she earned. But even without money, she can't solve the trifecta of human problems: clothes, food, and shelter. She didn't expect this. This is her first-hand experience with the caste system, the kind she only read about in textbooks. The reality is much colder. Literally, she starts sneezing. How is it so warm during the day? She curses the weather like it's a personal betrayal. Now she wonders, what is she going to do tomorrow? And the day after? And the one after that? Thinking gets her nowhere, so she sleeps. Then, a voice calls her name. Soft, familiar. Dalia opens her eyes, and from above, Jihi calls out to her. Dalia asks Jihi if she is fine, and whether she has eaten. Jihi responds, saying she knew Dalia would scold her, and assures her that she is sleeping well, eating well, and that Dalia should care more about herself instead, as she is in a more difficult situation. Dalia tells Jihi that when she woke up, she was the main character of this novel. She is shocked to be young again, but she doesn't understand what is going on. Jihi explains that she is inside the novel she wrote, so naturally, it won't be as sloppy as Dalia might think. Dalia becomes sad and quietly agrees. Jihi says she worked really hard writing this one. Still, Dalia nags her, wondering how a baron could possibly rank higher than a duke, no matter how much she thinks about it. Jihi stays silent, which prompts Dalia to apologize, but then she continues ranting. She scolds Jihi for making the main character a baron, and insists it would have been better if he had been a peasant, like in typical romance novels. Dalia says it's nice to be here because she doesn't have to worry about making breakfast for Jihi anymore. She's about to say something else when Jihi suddenly asks if she's keeping the necklace safe. Dalia gets angry, saying that if Jihi came all this way just to ask about a necklace, then what about her mother? Jihi reminds her that she lost the necklace. Dalia quickly denies that, claiming she has it right here, but then she remembers using it to make a costume and losing it when the Duke tripped over her rug. Jihi says it may have looked like an insignificant necklace, but it's the only one like it in the whole world. She decides to give Dalia a hint, since Dalia doesn't know much about the novel Jihi wrote. The necklace will reveal why Dalia is here in this world and what she is supposed to do. So she needs to find that necklace. On the night of a full moon, she should let the moonlight shine on the back of the necklace. The front has no symbol, so the light must touch the other side. Jihi says something else too, but Dalia is unable to hear her clearly. She calls out to Jihi again, but there is no response. Suddenly, even the rain starts and someone opens the door. The person asks why they aren't sleeping first. As their eyes lock, the man pulls Dalia into a hug and says an angel has descended. The man apologizes for hugging Dalia like that, explaining that he was too shocked to see her. For the past few days, she has been having dreams about someone who looks exactly like Dalia. In his world, that's called inspiration. For the past couple of years, he has been creating something inspired by those dreams. He is sure their meeting must be fate. Dalia finds the man very talkative. Even though she doesn't speak much in return, the man continues talking to himself quite well, which puts Dalia's mind at ease. At least Jihi is doing okay. Dalia calls her a naughty child for leaving like this, after only saying a few words. She thinks she must have dropped the necklace at the tent, and even if she goes back now, she won't be able to find it. Then she notices some scissors on the floor. The man asks her name first, and then introduces himself as Marcel. Dalia tells him her name, and Marcel finds it beautiful. He asks why she is walking around like this so late at night. Since it's late and raining, he decides to walk her home, but Dalia reveals she doesn't have a home. This shocks him deeply. Reincarnated into a novel, lost the plot and the necklace. Dalia's new life is already off to a chaotic start. Marcel is utterly shocked to discover that Dalia is homeless, especially with the weather this freezing. There had to be a reason she looked like a porcelain doll about to crack. Deeply concerned, he asks her about her family. Dalia, with a shrug far too casual for someone dropping such a bombshell, says that obviously she's homeless because she doesn't have a family. Marcel nearly chokes on his own sympathy. His concern only deepens as he gently inquires if she has a place to sleep tonight or even tomorrow. Dalia, the queen of brushing off crises with flair, simply replies, "Who knows?" and says she'll figure something out by morning. Marcel stares at her, like she just announced she was going to wrestle a bear for shelter. Trying to warm her up physically and emotionally, he asks if she is enjoying the tea. Dalia assures him that it was good. Marcel, still worried but trying to sound casual, offers her another cup. "It." She starts to say it's fine, brushing off the offer with a smile, but then something catches her eye. Her gaze freezes. A hand. There's a hand. Marcel is still politely confirming her decision, asking if she's really sure, but Dalia is no longer listening. Her eyes are locked on that hand like it just signed her death certificate. Every nerve in her body tenses as if she's moments from collapsing on the spot. She wonders if this is a woman's hand. Marcel, noticing her coughing, asks if she is all right. She tells him it's just that she choked on her drink. Marcel, though still concerned about her coughing, tries to stay calm. Meanwhile, Dalia catches sight of another hand, and a realization begins to dawn on her. What on earth had she been thinking? She doesn't even know this man. What if he uses scissors to murder people? Bro finally realized that she might be in danger. She begins to tremble and quickly says to him that it's nothing. Marcel asks her if she has caught a cold and suggests they move closer to the fireplace. He then gently seats her there. She calls out to him, asking if she can have another cup of tea. Marcel asks if she truly just wants tea and nothing to nibble on. She assures him that she is fine like that. He tells her to wait there for a moment. Then, almost casually, Marcel mentions that she can spend the night there if she wants to, as he has an empty room upstairs. He explains that he had initially planned to use it for storage, but the stairs are too steep. He begins to wonder aloud if, but before he can finish what he is saying, he turns back only to see Dalia running for her life. But as she is fleeing, she slips, loses her balance, and falls unconscious. Clumsy ass. When she opens her eyes, she finds herself in a very pretty room. It looks like a boutique. As she awakens, Marcel tells her that she's finally awake. She asks him what all this is. He says it seems like she hadn't been listening to anything yesterday and her thoughts were somewhere else. Then, formally, he welcomes her to his boutique. Now, Dalia finds herself explaining everything to him. She can hardly believe she suspected him of being some kind of scissor-wielding serial killer. Marcel assures her that he would never do anything so unfashionable. Dalia is quite embarrassed, and when she says she did see scissors lying on the floor, he responds that he moved in last night, so he didn't have much time to clean. He cleaned the dresses because he didn't want dust settling on them. He then admits that the way things looked, it would have seemed scary even to him. He explains that he uses the hand to display gloves on it, and the scorekeeper was merely a pair of shears. Dalia apologizes to him. Suddenly, something clicks in her mind, and she asks him if he really said this place is Marcel's boutique. He confirms that yes, this is his boutique. He is a designer. He makes these dresses and sells them. She can hardly believe he created all this himself. He tells her he has been making dresses since he was really young, and the ones here are from his much younger years. He still has many more dresses that he hasn't yet made. Then, he asks her which dress she likes best. She responds sadly that she doesn't know they're all so pretty. She guesses that one can't really tell which dress is prettiest unless one wears it. Marcel, placing a tiara on her head, says he has a simple solution for that. She can try them all on and choose the one she likes. Dalia quickly tells him that she can't do that. Marcel asks her why, and whether she dislikes the idea. She explains that she just can't accept anything so expensive for free. He puts his hand on her shoulder and points out that he never said he was giving it to her for free. She turns to him, asking if he uses these dresses to seduce girls. He scoffs, denying it. He's not a pervert. Dalia then asks what exactly it is that he wants to do. Marcel replies that what he wants is for her to do sketching. That's all she has to do. Meanwhile, on the other side of the scene, a knight questions why his grace would want Dalia and why he would order them to find her. The Duke looks at him with a fierce gaze and asks whether he has ever needed a reason to give them a command. The knight, afraid for his life, bows his head and replies that it shall be done as he wishes. Then there is a knock on the door. It's the butler, who informs the Duke that it's time for his lesson. As he rises, the Duke orders the knight to find Dalia and bring her to him. The knight, however, has no idea who she is, except that she is an eloquent speaker and a peasant. The knight, still shaken by the Duke's terrifying glare, gathers his knight squad to relay the situation. With a strained expression, he explains everything. One of the knights, with absolutely no respect for fear-induced trauma, immediately begins to mimic the Duke in a dramatic tone, asking, "Since when did I need a reason to give you a command?" This sets off a wave of varied reactions from the others, some chuckling, some groaning, and one knight dramatically pretending to faint from secondhand fear. The knight captain, now at the verge of tears, wails that because of Dalia, he's been combing through the entire area for hours, but she's nowhere to be found. He pleads with them to work extra hard to find her. However, none of his so-called comrades are willing to lend a hand. They cross their arms, one of them grumbling that they've got way too much work to do already. Another one, not missing the opportunity to poke fun, snickers that now isn't the time to be chasing after a yellow chick. Poor captain, he's got only one body, and it's barely holding up under the weight of stress and mockery. Then, one knight with a smidge of practicality suggests putting up a wanted poster for the yellow chick. After all, it's not like there are only 2 women in this whole land. How is he supposed to find this one without help? And if they draw a picture with her description, it might save everyone a lot of time. All the knights suddenly light up like lanterns at a party. A chorus of voices rings out, each asking, who's the best artist among them? The shiny bald knight, always ready to show off, puffs up his chest and announces that 8 out of his 9 great-grandfathers were chemical engineers. So naturally, art runs in his blood. Don't ask how chemical engineering relates to sketching, it doesn't. But he says it with confidence. So the captain solemnly bestows the sacred sketching duty to the shiny bald knight and orders Oliver to fetch pen and paper immediately. Cobble is instructed to gather every single person who is on duty that day. They must find that yellow chick and, more importantly, deliver her to the Duke with a pretty bow on top, figuratively, of course. Meanwhile, in the streets, Dalia walks with grace and caution, wearing one of Marcel's dresses. The crowd parts like the sea around her. The ladies whisper among themselves, trying to guess which noble house she belongs to. No one remembers seeing her in society before, and that mystery only adds to her aura. Back in the boutique earlier, Dalia had asked Marcel what this thing is that only she can. He had explained with a flourish that it's very simple. All she needs to do is walk around the streets wearing the dress. He's certain she'll catch everyone's attention, and when people come up to her asking where she bought it, all she has to do is smile and say, Marcel's boutique. He even teased her a bit, asking if she didn't want the world to see how divine she looked in his finest creation. Dalia, overwhelmed, asked him why she should do that, an honest question that nearly gave Marcel a heart attack. But in the end, she wore it anyway, mostly because he was being so dramatic about it that refusing felt like kicking a puppy. She still doesn't know whether she's wandered into the world of her past, but she remembers that this world is Jihi's creation of fixation, a made-up land. She passes by a statue and wonders if it's supposed to be David. She runs her fingers over it and is immediately disgusted by the thick layer of dust. Suddenly, a man from a nearby shop calls out to her, asking if she's interested in antiques. He gestures toward the entrance, offering more wonders inside. She asks him about one of the statues. The man, clearly a salesman by profession and a philosopher by spirit, says it represents the storm Gloria, and the set of 2 pieces cost 1 aurum. Dalia notes that it's clearly ancient Greek pottery, while another piece has a Roman-style Gloria, must be the name of a country, she muses, where people are apparently trying to cross borders. She's impressed. There's a wide range of real-world relics and artworks here, items from the East and West, all jumbled together like ingredients in a confused stew. However, the size ratios are absolutely terrible. The David statue outside is half the original size, but one statue inside is so large it nearly touches the ceiling spot on with the original. She asks him about the price. He says it was imported from Gloria too and insists he can't just let it go easily. But because she's lovely and possibly rich, he'll give her a discount. Then she spots a Mona Lisa. She asks about that, and he casually offers it for 400 firium if she buys it right now. When she asks who painted it, he admits he doesn't really remember, claiming the painter wasn't very famous. There goes poor Da Vinci's legacy, trampled under clumsy salesmanship. Dalia is aghast. She tells him, this is no way to store a painting. Sunlight is damaging it. He should at least close the curtain or turn the painting upside down. He replies that the price isn't high enough to justify all that effort. Just like every self-declared Da Vinci fan, she tells him to sit and just listen. He tells her to look closely. Lisa is both smiling and not smiling. The subtle touch is technically perfect. And if this painting isn't worth appreciating, what in this entire store could be? The man says she seems to have a good eye for these. She agrees she can tell everything here is of fine quality, even if most pieces are by unknown or obscure artists. Unfortunately, nobles only chase famous names, so pieces like these are never appreciated despite surviving centuries. She quietly comments that the people here seem rather folkish, and then tells him goodbye, hoping he sells plenty anyway. Where she comes from, these are works that have endured time itself. They shouldn't be judged solely by the artist's fame. As she turns to leave, she spots someone entering the shop, the Duke. She quickly ducks behind a display. The Duke greets the owner with a casual nod and says he has a question. Dalia freezes. He pulls out her necklace and asks if the shopkeeper has ever seen anything like it before. And just like that, Dalia's heartbeat skips. Her feet won't move. The game of hide and seek has just begun. The shop owner claims he has never seen the necklace before. The Duke tells him that some peasant child dropped it in the dirt and that he picked it up. Now, he is looking for the owner. Dalia watches him closely. At that moment, the Duke feels as if he is being watched, but before he can look around, she has already made her escape. The owner looks at him, confused, but the Duke gestures for him to continue. The man says that he has never seen the necklace before, but it has a unique pattern. He thinks pendants like this are usually made as good luck charms, and the sun in the center couldn't be more fitting for such a wish. However, the problem lies in the rising moon at the edge of the pendant. Dalia can't believe the Duke has her necklace and is searching for its owner. She also realizes that he has already run into her twice, so he must remember her face. But she doubts that if he have brain cells like her daughter Jihi, then perhaps she is just overthinking. After all, he didn't seem to recognize her in the tent either, before his subordinates arrived. She wonders if she should act like a high-ranking noble and take the necklace from him, perhaps claiming that the pirate picked up what she had lost. Yet again, she hesitates, knowing that it's only a matter of time before she is exposed. After all, she has no way of proving her identity. She considers grabbing it and running. She remembers Jihi once told her that she must find the necklace, but then she also remembers Jihi saying that the pendant only responds on the day of a full moon. Even if she retrieves it now, it won't be usable. While the man continues examining the pendant and trying to unravel the mystery, Dalia decides there is no need for her to take the risk now. The shop owner doesn't seem particularly attached to the necklace either. What she must check is the back of it. The Duke says that regardless of the reason, he can tell that this man is also seeing the necklace for the first time. The man confirms this. Yes, it is his first time encountering such a piece. As expected, Dalia thinks. The back of the necklace will only reveal its secrets during the full moon, and there is still 1 month left until then. So once again, she holds herself back. The man comments that the pendant seems to be made from baobab wood and doesn't look old. As Dalia is leaving, the Duke notices her golden hair. The man, however, continues talking, saying that beyond that, he isn't sure of anything. He asks if the Duke has consulted his elder about it. The Duke replies that he hasn't discussed it with his father. The man apologizes for not being able to help, but the Duke assures him it's fine and thanks him. As he walks away, the man calls out to the Duke again and humbly says that it might be better to throw away something as ominous as that necklace. He knows better than anyone how many people die at nightfall, and he still feels a deep unease whenever he sees the moon. The scene shifts to Dalia, who has now returned to Marcel. The first thing she asks him is whether he knows about Duke Farrell. She asks if he truly knows nothing about Duke Farrell, but Marcel genuinely doesn't. She wonders whether Marcel's ignorance stems from the fact that Farrell is only a duke. She points out that, here, a baron is ranked higher than a duke. Marcel affirms this without hesitation. She then asks what other positions exist besides those, and whether there is a priest or something similar. Marcel responds by asking what a priest is, shocking her. Could it be that this world has no gods? He explains that society here is divided into 3 main categories: nobles, regular citizens, and peasants. Dalia understands then that only the baron and duke rankings have been switched. She asks if he is a citizen himself, and he tells her he ranks higher than a duke, and that he knows she is a peasant. She is surprised and asks how he knew. He says it's obvious from the clothes she was wearing, only slaves and beggars wear those, and anyone could tell. She points out that even though he knew, he still allowed her to wear his clothes. He explains that in the Imperium, power alone dictates one's worth. Those with power are treated above all ranks and statuses. The definition of power varies. It could be influence, military strength, intelligence. The people of Imperium who possess acknowledged power are tested on equal ground, no longer bound by class or titles. In Marcel's view, beauty is the greatest power. That is why he accepted her as his equal. But Dalia counters that at the end of the day, power is still the most important. At the very least, one will always be tested according to their status. She becomes curious and asks if he knows any nobles, perhaps for the sake of the battle between noble authorities and faction. He is flustered and admits he doesn't know anyone. He says that to create sparkling, beautiful dresses, he must maintain his personal purity. The constant fighting in high society would only make him ill. She then asks him if, when he delivers dresses to the nobles, there are any job vacancies in the town. He tells her not to say that she hates wearing the dresses he makes. She assures him she doesn't, but she needs to build connections with the nobles. While he delivers the dresses, she'll approach them herself and sell the dresses too. It's like killing two birds with one stone. Marcel says he can always meet nobles here, so why should she go through all that hard work? She admits that's a good point. She doesn't want to bow her head to those nobles either. But then she strikes a dramatic, professor-like posture, forcing him to beg her to stop. Marcel tells her that if this is what she thinks is right, he can't force her. She must go by her own will. At the end, Dalia asks him to do one more thing for her. As he listens, she asks if he knows how to read and write. The scene shifts to the poor knight praising Muller for obtaining a good sketch from his right cousin. The knight, who now appears more like an assassin, examines the picture carefully. Back at the boutique, Dalia asks Marcel if it is really necessary to write to this many pages for a recipe of braised beef ribs. Marcel thinks every noble family must have their own version, and he expresses disbelief that she managed to learn how to write in just one night. She has never seen these alphabets before, but she understands the basic principle replacing each letter with a symbol. Marcel only has one book, so Dalia runs out of the boutique, determined to find the highest-ranking noble. She heads to Beluchci's store. As she looks at the boutique she just exited, she enters again. Marcel asks if she's there to get the dress measurements. She introduces herself as Dalia's friend and claims to have seen her running out of the boutique. Marcel informs her that it will take a while for Dalia to return and suggests she have some tea in the meantime. Beluchcci is impressed and about to say something when suddenly a flood of noble ladies rushes into the boutique, pushing each other and demanding to know if Marcel is the designer. Marcel appears on the verge of losing his composure from being overwhelmed by the number of women. He asks Beluchcci to help him. He points to a bundle of papers nearby. Those are the order forms, and asks her to write down the names for him. She tells him she can't read or write. Marcel proposes a solution. He will send everyone outside and let customers enter one by one. She becomes excited, saying she is really good at managing crowds like that. At the bookstore, Dalia reflects on how the items in the antique shop, like relics and artworks, once seemed authentic, but now appear fake. It feels strange to see these real-looking items in a fake world where the positions of Duke and Baron are reversed. She opens the book to study the recipe for braised beef ribs, surprised at how extensive the section is. Just then, a young lady enters and, as if following a script, proudly claims she got her dress from Marcel's boutique, the green building in the middle of the 3rd Avenue alley. Returning to the cookbook filled with beef recipes, Dalia wonders if she'll find any useful information at all. She then goes to the counter and asks if they sell maps. She gets dramatic, saying that her father is sending her on her very first trip, but she grew up sheltered and knows nothing of the world or geography. She hopes they can recommend a good travel destination. The manager gives her a map and explains that the areas above and below are snowfields and deserts, not ideal for her first journey. She sees a place labeled Finnish and notes that it's her first time seeing such a map. The old man tells her that, although the borders and territories are marked, the map is accurate enough. She mentions hearing about people from Georgia crossing borders. The old man says that country values home above all, so once someone leaves, they tend to flee to other nations. He personally recommends the capital of Pecunia over Gloria, since Pecunia is a port city where everything on the continent converges. It's ideal for shopping, and there are top-class accommodations along the coast. She then asks about Libertas. He warns her not to go there. Everyone in that country is a vagabond. There's no public authority and it's unsafe. She notes that Libertas means freedom in Latia, which suggests that each country was named with purpose. She notices that one place on the map isn't marked. The old man explains that Trigon is a demilitarized zone among the 3 countries. It's off-limits to the public. She realizes the dotted lines mark the separation of countries and that Telem is clearly the capital. The old man confirms that Telem belongs to the ducal house of Duke Farrell. She asks if that means Duke Farrell holds the most power in the Imperium. The old man clarifies that the true power lies with Molton. She is confused because he previously said that Duke Farrell owns the capital territory. He explains that Beline, which sits under Baron Molton, is vast but resembles a wasteland. Meanwhile, Farrell's territory includes the entire capital of Telem. This is unusual. It's a case of quantity over quality. All the best land belongs to Farrell, and it seems deliberate. If Farrell controls the capital, then shouldn't he be a baron? The old man tells her to keep her voice down. He whispers that this is his point. Despite being a duke, Farrell is more like a baron in aura and strength. From the elegance and pressure Duke Farrell radiates, it's obvious he's no low-class noble. Baron Molton, on the other hand, comes off aloof and indecent. His household hasn't been established for long, and there are even rumors of a concubine. The old man believes the only reason Molton became a baron is that he holds some dirt on high-ranking officials. In his eyes, he's no true baron. He then asks Dalia about her own territory, but she panics and pretends it's close to her curfew. She says she'll visit again and runs off. Farrell, a supposedly low-ranking noble, possesses the best lands in the county. Regular citizens find this odd. Beyond that, Dalia is also concerned about Gloria. The pottery she saw in that antique shop was reminiscent of ancient Greece, a country that valued honor much like Gloria. However, the time period in the Imperium doesn't match ancient Greece, leading Dalia to assume Jihi only used Greece as inspiration. It's hard to match the countries here to a specific real-world era. She begins to wonder what the items on the ship might truly be. She notices a crowd gathered around the notice board. As she looks closer, she realizes with shock that it's her own wanted poster. There's a one-arm reward for reporting her. The description reads, blonde, wavy hair, excellent speaking skills, and to report to the Knights of Duke Farrell upon discovery. The people scoff at the vague description, asking how they're supposed to find someone like that. Dalia, unable to recognize the sketch of herself, turns away just as the knights are posting the image. The captain catches sight of her golden hair and rushes at her, grabbing her hand and shouting that the yellow chick has just landed right in his hands. The knight scoffs, questioning where a peasant like her managed to get such clothes. Dalia, unfazed, sees this unfold just as Marcel had warned here. Power depends solely on status. She knows this knight hails from the Duchy of Farrell and is rather faithful, which makes his behavior even more irritating. The knight calls his fellow men to gather, clearly about to attempt capturing her. Dalia, scandalized, calls them insolent and demands clarification. Did he just call her a peasant? The knights freeze, shocked. The captain hesitantly declares that he's quite sure she is the one they are looking for. Dalia narrows her eyes and asks with all the dignity of an offended noblewoman which family they serve. The captain says they are knights of House Farrell. And that's when Dalia begins her theatrical performance. She starts by lamenting how even ducal houses are becoming unruly these days, dragging the prestige of her family name through the mud. The knights exchange nervous glances. One timidly asks, Eliseo, which family is that again? Dalia glares at them like a queen addressing insects and demands how a mere knight dares talk back. The captain mutters that he's never heard of her family name before, prompting Dalia to go full scandalized noblewoman. Insulting her wasn't enough, they now have the audacity to claim ignorance of her lineage? She then asks again, for good measure, whether they are truly from ducal Farrell. Upon confirmation, she announces that she'll be sending word to her father immediately to dispatch some people, and the knights freeze. Panic sets in. They drop to their knees, begging for forgiveness. One of the knights foolishly tries to sneak a peek at her, and Dalia lets out a shriek that could peel paint off a wall. She shouts at him for daring to ogle her, and he collapses in a puddle of apologies. Dalia, now absolutely glowing with righteous indignation, declares that she must have been mistaken all along. After all, she's heard the Duke of Farrell is a man of dignity and morality, someone who takes care of the refined and the underprivileged alike, despite his own modest rank. Judging by these knights, however, she sighs. That must have just been an old saying. She continues to lecture them on how those who serve a master must act in a way that brings honor to him. If they insult her family, they insult her parents, her heritage, and frankly, she wouldn't be satisfied even if she cut off their necks. A statement like that leaves the knights shaking in their armor. But, she says graciously, she'll let this slide just this once because she intends to meet with the Duke himself. The knights, practically crying with relief, nod gratefully, only for her to stomp her heel down, forcing them to bow deeper. However, there's a catch. From now on, they must show respect to her family name. The knights nod furiously. She orders them to stay exactly as they are and apologize sincerely for their disgraceful behavior. They're not to look up until she gives permission. As she turns to leave, preparing to create yet another uproar somewhere else, the knights whisper among themselves, utterly horrified by what just happened. The captain mutters that, to him, she looks just like a yellow chick, and the poor knights despair for their dear duke's reputation. Meanwhile, Dalia is now running, wondering why the Duke placed his knights on her trail. Could it be because of her necklace? At the boutique, Beluchcci calls out to her. She's wearing an absolutely stunning dress, a gift from Marcel for helping him. Dalia compliments her, saying the dress suits her beautifully. Beluchcci, blushing and awkward, admits it's her first time wearing such fancy clothes. Dalia suggests they head back for dinner, but Beluchcci says she has to leave now. They promise to meet again soon, and Beluchcci takes her leave. Dalia watches the boutique with mild curiosity as other ladies exit, their arms full of newly purchased dresses. Just then, Marcel arrives, claiming he's found a job for her and warning her not to be too shocked. Apparently, the Baron of Molton, yes, that Baron, the real power in the Imperium, is hiring. They're not looking for an ordinary maid, but someone to care for his only daughter. It doesn't matter where she's from, they prefer someone close in age. Meals, lodging, and a salary of 500 firium will be provided. Marcel casually drops that the carriage will arrive soon and asks if she's interested. Meanwhile, back at Beluchci's home, her mom is puffing on a cigarette when Beluchcci bursts in, gushing about her dress. Her mother eyes it suspiciously and asks where she got it. Beluchcci says it was a gift from a friend. Which friend? The mother prods. Marcel, Beluchcci replies, before quickly adding that he's actually her friend's friend. Her mom fixes her with a glare, clearly unimpressed, and reminds her again that she really doesn't like being lied to. Back at the boutique, Dalia scoffs to herself. If the Baron is building this arrangement from scratch, he must be quite serious. Marcel, noticing her hesitation, jokes whether the beautiful dresses aren't enough to keep her around. She assures him it's fine, she's made good use of the dresses, and now she can live comfortably, all thanks to him. Marcel, clearly heartbroken, asks if she's really going, and if she won't miss him. Dalia starts to think he's about to cry. Suddenly, they see Beluchcci stumbling toward the boutique, bruised and battered, but still wearing the dress. Dalia runs to her, alarmed, and demands to know what happened. Beluchcci, teary-eyed, asks about Dalia's belongings and whether she's really going somewhere. Dalia explains there's a job opening at a noble house, and the carriage will be here any minute. Beluchcci, overwhelmed, drops to her knees and begs to go with her. Beluchcci begs Dalia to take her along, tears streaming down her face, but Dalia is frozen. She doesn't know what to say. Marcel suggests a solution. Why not let Beluchcci take Dalia's place at the boutique as a deficit worker? It sounds noble enough, but Dalia rejects the offer on the spot. She knows her mother would drop dead if she stayed here any longer. Marcel, possibly trying to soothe the awkward air, points out they don't even have time to pack Beluchci's things. Dalia, unfazed, declares she has nothing to pack anyway. The clothes she's wearing are the only pair she owns. Elegant minimalism or heartbreaking reality, who's to say? Beluchcci is still sobbing dramatically, pleading with Dalia for help, when the coachman arrives like fate in a dusty hat. He asks if this is Marcel's boutique, and promptly announces that he is from House Molton, here to collect the girl who's been chosen to serve as a maid. Talk about snatching dreams with a clipboard. Marcel turns to Dalia and tells her it's time he'll console Beluchcci later. Dalia doesn't say a word. She simply walks away with dramatic flair, then halts, turns and commands Beluchcci to get up because she's coming with her. Beluchcci, mid-tears, short-circuits. This move is so heroic it confuses the coachman, who looks as though he's been asked to babysit Dragon. He asks, very reasonably, who's supposed to sit in the carriage. Dalia, undeterred and channeling the spirit of a duchess, plops down like her father owns the Imperium itself and says both of them will ride. The coachman blinks. This wasn't in his contract. He mutters that this must be a mistake. He was only told to fetch one girl. Dalia gasps, shocked, appalled. Full of drama, asks if he's sure. She whispers to Beluchcci to just get in and then climbs in herself, humming like they're off to a picnic. She tosses out a dismissive, maybe he misheard, while the coachman stammers that she can't just do as she pleases. But Dalia only smiles a smile that says, watch me. After all, this is the Imperium, and when someone from the Imperium meets someone with power, social status is temporarily shoved into a trunk and locked away. If Baron Molton, that towering pillar of influence, sees her as a person with power, then that's that. As they travel in the carriage, Beluchcci notices something glinting tightly wrapped around a tree, ominous or irrelevant. Who knows? At House Molton, however, chaos is already steeping. The head maid, sharp as a blade, is troubled. She's sure only one maid was expected. So why are there two girls stepping out of the carriage like they're best friends in a coming-of-age film? She yells for the coachman to prepare the carriage again. This is clearly going to involve some return shipping. Dalia, offended on multiple levels, suggests that both of them just work here. How hard can it be? The guest maid, who resembles a potato in both shape and temperament, snorts and tells her not to be ridiculous, only one can stay. The question is, which one? Dalia launches into melodrama, claiming she can't possibly go back now, not after telling all her friends. The headmaid, unmoved, asks what on earth that has to do with anything. Dalia insists that both girls are healthy, haven't messed up, and if only one is hired, it'll make House Molton look like it can't afford 2 whole maids. How undignified for the most notable house in the Imperium. Let the commoners talk. The head maid rubs her temples and says she'll have to see if these two even know how to work. Later, in their room, she informs them that they'll report to the kitchen in the morning and must not be late. Afterward, they'll get to see the young lady. A grand and terrifying honor. Once she's gone, Dalia throws herself on the bed like a dying opera singer. She is completely, utterly exhausted. Beluchcci, meanwhile, is in a state of bliss. These pretty dresses, so soft, so shrimp-colored. She never imagined working while dressed like this, like a tiny elegant dumpling. She thanks Dalia, then falls quiet, a smile blooming across her face like a rare flower. Morning comes with less grace. The maids are ordered to take food to the recipe office, which might as well be Mordor at this point. Poor Dalia mutters curses at Jihi, who apparently invented this torturous job. The head maid cuts in, demanding Dalia not speak unless spoken to, and definitely not to bring food unless asked. Beluchcci, on the other hand, is nearly vibrating with excitement. What kind of noble lady will they meet? Dalia, naturally, thinks Beluchcci has lost her mind. As they open the door, they hear voices drifting in. Someone is talking about a ball. Molton himself confirms it, even adding that he's planning to engage off Elise because nothing says romance like legal contracts and strategic bloodlines. The lady next to him is scandalized, suggesting he's rushing things. Elise is still young, and why not delay the marriage a little? But Molton has already sent her portraits around Finney's. Surely a proposal is imminent. Dalia sneaks a glance. So that's Baron Molton. His guest must be of lower rank. They're not sitting too close, after all. Then her gaze meets another lady's, and that lady glares back like Dalia has just insulted her ancestry. Dalia swallows hard. She's doomed. Her eyes catch one of the portraits, and she's certain it wasn't there before. But maybe it's nothing. Maybe she's hallucinating. Maybe this baron has excellent taste in art. Countess Chelsea notices a vase and remarks she's never seen it before. Molton tells her he got it at an auction in Pecunia. The look and color of the vase are so realistic, it's as if the grapes painted on it are ready to fall off and roll under the couch. He claims to own many vases, but white ones with such detail are rare. He doesn't even know who made it or when. But if Chelsea thinks it's valuable, then maybe it's worthy of being declared a national treasure. Dalia grins to herself clearly. She has come to the right place. Chelsea guesses it must have cost Molton a small fortune. He responds smoothly that money is no object when it comes to art. True class, according to Molton, lies in recognizing an artwork's worth. Elise, however, asks if that vase really fits, and if they must display it here. Dalia thinks that even though the price wasn't high due to its unknown origin, the antique shopkeeper had acknowledged the mystery surrounding it. And still, the material and craftsmanship were top tier. Now that's the kind of logic Dalia respects. Chelsea announces she must gift Baron Molton a Kerr piece for his birthday ball. But Molton waves it off. No other art has caught his eye since he saw this vase. Unfortunately, just then, Elise rises and strategically causes Beluchcci to trip over a fruit bowl. Fruits fly like cannonballs. The plate crashes to the floor, in dramatic slow motion. Because what is nobility without a little fruit-related disaster? Not only does the food go flying like confetti at a royal wedding, but Molton's beloved vase. The vase also meets a tragic end, shattering into pieces that probably cost more than a year's worth of servant salaries. Dalia panics. She rushes to Beluchcci, frantically checking her over as if the fruit had been weaponized. If she is hurt, she asks, as if a bruised banana might have done permanent damage. But Beluchcci is not focused on her physical injuries. No, she is spiritually wrecked. Her soul has already packed its bags. She looks at Dalia with wide eyes and asks, what to do now? Because let's be honest, her goose isn't just cooked. It's flambéed. Elise, oozing with entitlement, throws in her royal 2 cents, pointing out that apparently, these don't even know how to apologize. Beluchcci immediately falls to her knees, tears already forming a small puddle on the floor. She begs that she'll work endlessly, tirelessly, to pay back the damages. Molton, ever the melodramatic noble, sighs and mutters that this must be a nightmare. Elise, clearly enjoying the drama like it's breakfast theater, turns to her father and asks what they're going to do now. After all, she says with a gasp, that vase was worth 500 orim. That's 500 gold coins. Beluchcci looks like she's going to faint and possibly meet her ancestors. She sobs harder, promising to pay it all back, even if she has to work until she's 80 and can only shuffle around with a mop. But Molton shuts her down faster than a tavern past midnight. She can't possibly repay it, so she needs to stop performing this tragic play. Dalia, not one to stand idly while her friend is getting verbally roasted, calmly sits down next to the shattered evidence. With the poise of a detective in heels, she picks up a golden fork and gently scrapes the edge of the broken vase. At that moment, Molton, done with the peasant theatrics, orders the butler to escort these two disaster magnates out immediately. But Dalia, with her best wait-for-it voice, tells them all to pause. She tilts her head and asks, "How much was the vase again?" Molton, now mildly curious, repeats, 500 gold coins, excluding travel fees, of course. Naturally, antique drama has hidden shipping costs too. Dalia squints at the pieces and announces, "Well, from far away, it looked valuable. But up close? It's giving. Cheap flea market. Energy." She explains with the authority of a professional art critic that true antique vases are known for their exquisite shape and refined design. While it's too late to check the full form thanks to fruit-induced demolition, they can still examine the bottom. She points out the glaze. One piece is lumpy, the thickness varies. A real porcelain vase would have a single smooth coat of glaze and a subtle, even shine. But this one? It's losing color and gleam like a burnt-out candle. That means while it may be old, it certainly wasn't well made. Elise immediately throws a tantrum in couture. "Don't believe her!" she shrieks at her father. "She's just trying to save her friend from punishment." But Dalia shrugs. "And why would she do that?" she says, eyes deadpan. "If she lied and got caught, she will be executed. And if she really looked like someone who woke up this morning just to die?" She then gestures toward the broken pieces and asks Molton what color he's. "Black," he begins, but then he squints. "No, wait, it's navy blue." Chelsea, ever the cultured countess, gasps in excitement. "That's cobalt paint," she says. Cobalt a blue, so luxurious, so precious. It's basically the champagne of paint. A porcelain vase painted in cobalt is worth far more than one painted in iron-based pigment. Dalia nods along, pleased. She explains, in lecture mode now, that even common material can become extraordinary with care. Porcelain is temperamental. Try to paint it with iron-based pigments and fire it at the wrong temperature? You'll ruin everything. But cobalt? It survives the heat and retains its beautiful color and gloss. Still, she says, something's fishy. She knows the original vase this one pretends to be. It had grapes drawn in iron-based paint and a distinct, beautiful shape. That's why it was valuable. Molton, now visibly intrigued, insists that this is an old cobalt-painted vase, so it must be worth something. Dalia agrees it's old, sure, but not this vase. She tells him to take a closer look and, if he wants proof, to dip the shard into boiling water. The paint, she claims, will fade. Because this isn't a rare, hand-painted cobalt vase. It's a common old vase that someone painted over to make it look expensive. And just like that, Molton's precious 500 Aurum relic? Turns out it's about as valuable as a painted rock from a well-decorated backyard. Moral of the story? Never underestimate a girl with a golden fork and nerves of steel. Molton narrows his eyes and asks, in a tone as dry as week old toast, whether what she is saying means that this priceless-looking vase is, in fact, a fraud. The girl nods solemnly, as if confirming a death sentence. Elise, ever the practical one, immediately asks someone to bring boiling water perhaps to test the vase, or maybe just to throw at someone. But her father promptly stops her, saving everyone from an unexpected tea-time scalding. Molton takes a step toward the girl, eyeing her as if she were an exotic insect that wandered into his precious art gallery. He notes, with the suspicion of a man who's never had a surprise party, that he hasn't seen her around before. The girl replies that it's her first time working here. Brave. Molton, ever the class snob, asks about her background, and when she admits gasp that she's not a noble, he reacts the way a cat might to being sprayed with a water bottle. He slaps her, hard, right across the face, as if her honesty personally offended his ancestors. Then he dramatically asks how a mere peasant dares to insult him, and his eye for art. Dalia, still recovering from the blow, shoots back a verbal slap of her own, wondering aloud why, with such a precious eye, he hadn't noticed the trash vase was trash in the first place. Chelsea makes her entrance like a woman arriving late to a drama just in time for the climax. She tells Molton to let it go, dismissing Dalia as beneath her time and breath. According to her, a broken vase is just baked mud anyway. Whether it was real or fake hardly matters now it's broken and no longer worthy of being fretted over. Clearly, Chelsea suspects Dalia is just spewing nonsense because she's scared her little friend might get fired. I mean, really, what would a child like her know about vases? She's probably just parroting words she's heard while loitering behind closed doors. Chelsea goes on, remarking that although 500 gold coins are, sure, a decent sum, it's hardly the kind of money over which the strongest man in the empire should be etched into legend. She starts cleaning her nails, or maybe just her pride, and suddenly remembers that someone said they had something to give to Dalia, which is the only reason she even showed up here. Molton, proving he really does get the last word, orders the butler to throw Dalia out of his estate. Dalia, thoroughly unimpressed, mentally notes that she's now learned exactly what kind of man he is. The kind who raises his hand before raising his standards. The butler, with all the compassion of a doorman with a dinner reservation, tells her she should consider herself lucky things ended this mildly. Dalia, fiery as ever, calls him a vulgar man and grabs Beluchci's hand, declaring it's time to leave. But Beluchci, the rebel, pulls her hand away and says she wants to stay. Dalia, aghast, scoffs and accuses her of having lost her goddamn mind. Can't she see what kind of men these are? Does she think they're going to offer her a job in floristry next? Beluchci argues that if she stays, they'll feed her, clothe her, and won't beat her for earning too little. An oddly compelling offer, honestly. Meanwhile, the butler, perhaps taking his job a bit too seriously, starts to physically drag Dalia out. As she's being hauled off, Dalia shouts out to Beluchci one last time. Outside, Dalia fumes. That big-headed man is clearly the biggest dung pile in Imperium, and she's not even joking. But now she's got a bigger problem. What on earth is she supposed to do about Beluchci? As she's trudging along, internally narrating her own misfortune, she spots a carriage. And there sits Chelsea, looking like she's been waiting for a dramatic carriage entrance all her life. She tells Dalia to hop in, and once they arrive at Chelsea's house, well, it makes the Baron's place look like a peasant's broom closet. Chelsea, casually referencing the earlier disaster, reminds Dalia of the fake vase. Then she pulls out another one and asks what Dalia thinks of this one. Dalia, sharp as ever, immediately declares it the real treasure. But Chelsea laughs and reveals it's also a fake bought at Pecunia's back market for barely 100 silver coins. Dalia, unbothered, says she's got something cool to share. And here it comes. It doesn't matter where art is made or where it's bought. A masterpiece is a masterpiece because it survives the test of time and trends. She values pieces like that. Even if she were thrown into a completely different world, she'd still treasure it. She explains that the glaze is even, the hue is beautiful, the shape is graceful, and the lip is smooth. The lines and the artistry of the illustrations are excellent. Yes, Dalia insists it's real. And Chelsea, having already admitted it's fake, listens as Dalia passionately defends its authenticity. Dalia goes on to explain how she stored the vase properly. The Baron had placed his near a child, which is a rookie mistake. Too many people walk in and out of that place. But she, Dalia the Wise, placed hers by the wall of the library on a table of appropriate height, far from any wandering elbows. She even took off her gloves before touching it, knowing a slippery grip could spell doom. Plus, she made sure there were curtains on the window to protect the colors from the sun. Because someone truly knowledgeable about porcelain vases wouldn't go all the way to another city just to buy a fake. Chelsea laughs, delighting in the fact that Dalia figured it out. Because, plot twist, it is real. It's the heirloom, passed down through generations. Chelsea, amused, remarks that it's wild to think a child like Dalia used to sell flowers. She remembers seeing Dalia with other flower girls near that fancy restaurant. The lady Dalia had pointed to back then, notorious for being cheap and loud. If she really had donated anything, she would have shouted it from every rooftop in town. Dalia, ever the strategist, diverted the question of where she got the money. That woman got all the credit while giving just enough to avoid suspicion. Chelsea remembers thinking Dalia was clever even then, but she never guessed she'd get to meet her again under such circumstances. Now Dalia understands. This was the train Chelsea must have pulled to help her back at the Baron's house. And at that, Dalia smiles. She politely says that if Chelsea is done asking questions, she'll be taking her leave. But Chelsea stops her. She wants to know her name. When Dalia answers, Chelsea kneels down and says that it's a great name. And now, dramatic pause, she acknowledges Dalia's power. Because, truthfully, she needs her help. Dalia stares at Chelsea like she's just turned into a talking cabbage. What is this sudden shift in tone? Why is Chelsea suddenly being so polite and on top of that, kneeling like she's about to propose marriage or polish her boots? Chelsea, perfectly calm while still dramatically bent at the knees, says that it might seem strange to Dalia, but this is the traditional gesture of respect in Imperium. When someone acknowledges the power of another, they kneel and kiss the back of their hand. Naturally. Dalia, probably wondering if she's just unlocked a hidden prestige class, mumbles that even Marcel doesn't do this sort of thing. Dalia tells her to stop it, before she gets whiplash from the second-hand humility. But Chelsea smoothly changes the topic, asking what Dalia had been curious about. Dalia, expression deadpan, replies that she'd just been wondering if all these books weren't perhaps exclusively about braised beef short ribs. Having apparently conducted the most gourmet literary investigation of the year, Dalia is now irritated. She thanks Chelsea for letting her flip through every single book just to discover that her entire library is essentially a beef stew archive. Chelsea admits that it's strange to her too. She even climbs a ladder mid-thought, as one does when discussing stew-based literature, and reflects that one book should have been more than enough. Why does she have an entire meat lover's encyclopedia set? She tells Dalia that she used to have deep feelings about these books, used to care for them dearly, but now she doesn't feel anything, which is, frankly, kind of weird. Even Duke Farrell said the same thing to her. Dalia freezes. Wait, Duke Farrell? The Duke Farrell? Chelsea, blinking as if she just said the name of the local postman, says of course. Is there anyone who doesn't know Duke Farrell? Dalia internally thinks Marcel definitely doesn't, but keeps that bit to herself. Chelsea moves the conversation forward, saying they need to focus. The dumb as bricks Baron's birthday ball is coming up. Yes, the one who wouldn't recognize art if it painted itself on his forehead. But, oh, his vanity? Exquisite. Apparently this Baron has a tradition. Every year, his guests bring him gifts. He and his appraiser inspect them like snooty judges at a cooking contest. If he likes it, you're welcomed warmly. If not, you might be tossed out of the party. Or worse, suffer the humiliation of 1,000 whispers. Dalia, now rightfully panicked, asks if this is what Chelsea needs her help with. Chelsea confirms with a smug little nod. She needs Dalia to choose a gift for the Baron. A gift so dazzling, so irrefutable, it'll lock her status in place. Dalia agrees to help with, but only if her conditions are met. So off the two of them go to an antique shop that smells suspiciously of lavender and overpricing. The shopkeeper greets them with the kind of nervous energy only noble women and credit limits can inspire. He says it seems like they know each other, and Chelsea responds by calling Dalia a precious friend, a line so sweet it could give a candied apple a complex. He asks Chelsea if she still likes the painting she bought last time. She says she loved it. It's been lighting up her tea room with aesthetic vibes ever since. Meanwhile, Dalia already has her eye on something. She asks about the price of a certain painting, and the owner, with all the theatrics of a bargain illusionist, says it's about 800 silver coins, but just for them, he'll knock it down to 500. Dalia announces they'll be taking it. Pack it up. Chelsea will be paying. As the shopkeeper scurries to load it into the carriage, like a man trying to escape before someone changes their mind, Dalia asks casually where he got it from. He says he's not entirely sure, but he's heard it came from the Ahirine Desert, mysterious and slightly sandy. And now for the terms. Dalia lays down her conditions like a dramatic queen holding court. First, Chelsea must take her to the ball. She needs to get along with the other nobles, if only for the opportunity to roast them in private later. Second, if the Baron likes the gift, Chelsea has to grant Dalia one request. Any request. Third, Chelsea must not say a single word at the antique shop. Nothing. Zilch. Zero. Not even an opinion on the carpet. Chelsea considers this. Says they're all fine. Except the third one. Is Dalia trying to ignore her opinion? Dalia shakes her head and explains, it's not about ignoring her. She just wants her to trust her. Just for a bit. In the present, Chelsea says she does understand. She trusts Dalia. She does. But she still can't wrap her head around why Dalia would choose that. What in the world could she possibly be thinking? Later at Baron's mansion, someone jolts Beluchcci awake. It's time to iron Elise's dress. Half asleep and fully confused, Beluchcci stumbles through the corridor like a ghost with laundry duties. She hears voices, murmuring. She pauses. Worry prickles her spine. She bursts into the room like an anxious hero, fully expecting disaster, and instead finds Elise's having an absurdly good time. With a guy. Scandal. Curtains. End scene. Elise gets angry at Beluchcci, demanding to know what the hell she is doing here. But the flirtatious boy beside her interrupts and tells Elise that he didn't know she had such a cute maid. He says they should leave now. Elise turns to Adam and says he just got here, so why is he leaving already? Adam smiles and replies that he'll come back soon. When Elise asks him when exactly, he says it depends on her, but he hopes Beluchcci will still be hanging around when he returns. With that, he leaves. Beluchcci, left behind, quickly apologizes to Elise and explains that she didn't mean to come here. But Elise, fuming, tells her to get out. Beluchcci is in disbelief. Elise shouts at her to get the hell out of this room because she can't stand the sight of her. Girl, you better hold an eye on your F-boy rather than screaming on Beluchcci. The next day, Dalia walks up to Marcel and tells him that she got fired up. Marcel raises an eyebrow and asks her why she went there by herself. Dalia explains that Beluchcci said she wanted to stay there, but she's still worried about her. Marcel says he's going to check on Beluchcci and asks if Dalia wants to come along. Dalia narrows her eyes and questions why he's going there. Marcel shrugs and says he needs to do some fitting, so she might as well come with him. Dalia sighs and says she got kicked out for creating a mess, so there's no way they're letting her in again. Marcel nods and says alright, he'll go alone and see what Beluchcci is up to. Dalia stares at him for a second before asking quietly if he's not a noble. Marcel pauses, then turns to her, confused, and asks what she means. She presses further, why did he lie to her? At that moment, the coachman arrives and announces he's from the Molton house and has come to pick up the fitting dresser. Marcel tells him he'll be there in a moment. Dalia isn't done, she raises her voice, saying they haven't finished talking. Marcel grabs her gently and tells her, no matter what happens, he would never lie to her. Then he adds that he'll be back soon, all packed, and departs for the manor. Meanwhile, Elise breaks a bottle, muttering that this one was filled with oil, and she had asked Beluchcci to bring her perfume. Elise says that now not only has she lost her sense of smell, but her head also feels empty. She wonders bitterly why a girl like Beluchcci was even brought into this house. Then, Elise's mother enters the picture, greeting her daughter warmly. Elise's mom says she probably didn't hear her coming in because she was getting ready. Elise rushes up to her mother, asking how her trip went and if she brought any gifts. Her mom assures her she filled the carriage with presents for her daughter, and today they're doing the fitting for the dress Elise will wear at the ball. Then, Elise's mom notices Beluchcci and asks if she is the new maid. Beluchcci confirms it with a bow. Elise's mother smiles and calls her cute, but Elise quickly tells her not to say that this is the girl who broke a 500 gold coin vase. She steps up to Beluchcci and asks if it's true. Beluchcci lowers her head and says it is. Elise's mom raises her hand, making Beluchcci flinch, eyes shut, expecting a slap. But instead, the hand comes down gently on her shoulder. Elise's mom says she is welcome in their home. She explains that her daughter may act tough on the outside, but she is soft and lonely deep down. Ah, she JS, such a cutie. She hopes Beluchcci will take good care of her. Beluchcci quietly replies that she will. At that moment, Marcel arrives, announcing that he is from Marcel Boutique and is here for the fitting. He and Beluchcci exchange a quick telepathic greeting. Now Elise is wearing the dress, and she turns to her mom, asking how she looks. Her mother praises her with shining eyes, calling her the most beautiful girl in the whole world. Marcel leans in toward Beluchcci and whispers, asking how she's doing. But she looks like she's lost somewhere far away. As Marcel is leaving, he checks again with Beluchcci, asking if she's sure she'll be alright. She assures him she's fine, and asks him to tell Dalia she's doing well too. Marcel nods, tells her to come visit the boutique sometime, and waves as he goes. That night, Beluchcci sits alone on her bed, thinking. On the day she wore that dress, her mother had gotten angry at her, thinking she'd lied and missed a promised return date. She remembers being beaten for that. She remembers the pain of being left behind, while her mother and sister went to eat delicious food without her. Seeing Elise now with her mother laughing, getting pampered, receiving dresses, makes a deep sadness well up inside her. Suddenly, she starts to cry. A voice gently asks her why she's crying. There's a man, sitting in the window, bathed in the pale glow of the moon. Beluchcci gets scared and stammers out a question, asking him who he is. But before she can finish, he grabs her gently and tells her it's time for her to go to sleep now. Without giving her a chance to resist, he makes her drink a sleeping potion, and soon, she drifts off into a deep slumber. I know he can fix me. The next morning, the maid wakes Beluchcci up in a hurry, telling her that something bad has happened. Beluchcci quickly gets up and sees that the entire Molton household is in a state of distress. The head of the family, Lord Molton, looks furious. His wife tries to calm him down, gently saying they can always buy something similar to what was lost. But Lord Molton sharply replies that that isn't the problem. The problem is who took it. Serves him right. I am even willing to lay the silver word to give a headache even more. The maid leans over to Beluchcci and whispers that it looks like the silver wolf paid them a visit last night. Beluchcci blinks in confusion. She has no idea who or what the silver wolf is. The maid quietly explains that the silver wolf is a famously elusive thief, a mysterious figure said to visit the same place 3 times in total. On the first visit, he steals the most precious item. On the second, the most important one. And on the third, he takes what the owner cherishes most. As proof that he's been there, he always leaves behind one of his fangs at the place where the stolen item used to be. And now Lord Molton is holding that fang in his trembling hand. Beluchcci murmurs why they don't just hide their valuables, but the maid shrugs and says that's pointless. The silver wolf isn't famous for nothing. No matter how well something is hidden, he always finds it. The butler steps in and suggests that perhaps they should postpone the upcoming ball, considering the circumstances. But that only makes Lord Molton angrier. He explodes, asking if the butler is seriously suggesting they postpone the one ball he arranges every single year. He then furiously orders him to ensure the guards are on full alert from now on. Elise, standing nearby, says to her father that she doesn't think it's necessary to go this far. Her father turns to her, his eyes blazing, and snaps at her, asking if this is some kind of joke to her. Hurt, Elise bursts into tears and runs from the room. Beluchcci instinctively chases after her. Back in the room, Lord Molton turns to the messenger and asks if they've received any response from those they sent messages to. The man shakes his head they haven't heard back yet. Lord Molton growls that it looks like they'll need to start asking around directly. Meanwhile, the butler, watching the situation unfold, lowers his voice and reveals to one of the aides what they must truly do. If the silver wolf has already arrived, then they'll need to send her away quickly, with a man, before the thief returns again. The scene shifts. Elise is standing beneath a tall tree, tying a ribbon onto one of its branches. Beluchcci watches from a short distance. Something about this scene feels familiar, and then it hits her. She's seen this before. She remembers it clearly now, from the time she first came to this place. Elise ties ribbons to the tree to send secret signals to Adam. A divine red ribbon means he shouldn't come. A calm blue ribbon means he's welcome to visit. Without a word, Elise strides over and grabs her roughly by the wrist. Her voice is low and sharp, her eyes burning with intensity. She threatens Beluchcci, warning her not to dare open her mouth about this in front of her father. Elise shouts at her, demanding an answer. Beluchcci quietly says that she understands. With that, Elise lets go and shoves her away before walking off. At Marcel boutique, Marcel is too stunned to speak. This is his greatest work yet. The dew of the night is finally seeing the light of day. Dalia thinks it's too much, especially since she has the soul of a 40-year-old granny. But Marcel insists she should be the center of attention. It seems, however, that he's forgotten this is Molton's party, not hers. She takes her leave while poor Marcel remains behind, being as dramatic as ever. But just before stepping away, she turns and thanks him, which leaves him completely stunned. At the manor, Dalia thinks that Molton will surely recognize her, but Chelsea believes that they will simply say Dalia is her relative. After all, it's Dalia's first time attending such a grand birthday celebration. It's one of the biggest events held in the Imperium. Then, some guests notice Chelsea and begin to whisper, questioning how shameless she must be to actually come here. They accuse her of not shedding a single tear at her husband's death, and even suggest she must have killed him. But then, Molton welcomes Chelsea. He mentions that Dalia seems very much like someone he knows. Chelsea says she's her niece and tells Dalia to greet him. Molton notes that Dalia must be around Elise's age, and Chelsea offers to introduce them. Dalia, on the other hand, is relieved he doesn't recognize her. Her gaze then lands on a wooden trap, and she asks Molton what it is. He explains it's a little hospitality for his guests. Dalia wonders what kind of hospitality it could be, as it looks more like torture. Molton admits that people may say that, but insists it's still a gift, one meant for those who bring unpleasant offerings. Still, he assures her, it won't kill them. And speaking of gifts, he is eager to see what Chelsea has brought. Chelsea is ready as well, prepared to present her gift. Molton's eyes widen as he begins to see it inside the treasure box. She opens it to him, and upon seeing the gift, his eyes widen even further. It is a statue, and upon seeing his priceless reaction, Chelsea declares that she knew he would like it. She adds that it is made of gold, but Molton becomes delirious, demanding if she thinks he is some kind of joke to her. He recognizes the statue as one that had been lying in the corner of an antique shop for quite a long time, untouched and unsold. He grows furious, accusing her of lying and claiming it is made of gold. In a fit of rage, he orders that she be taken away. But finally, Dalia speaks. She asks him if he truly thinks of it that way, then gestures to the person standing beside him, suggesting that he must be an appraiser. The appraiser raises a brow and questions if Dalia is implying that the statue is actually made of gold. Dalia nods in response. The appraiser then requests the butler to bring the bottle from his bag. Molton, now even angrier, lashes out at the appraiser, but the man calmly tells him to wait. He says that there is a simple way to test gold. From the bottle, he pours a small amount of liquid onto the statue. Molton, bewildered, asks what he just used. The appraiser replies that it is vinegar. He explains, perhaps because he finds Molton exceptionally dim, that gold is a precious metal. Not only is it rare, but it also never loses its shine. He adds that if the statue Dalia brought had not been gold, the vinegar would have changed its color, but it doesn't. And so, he finally reveals that the statue is indeed made of gold and is worth thousands of coins. He then turns to Chelsea and asks if she truly gave him all this gold as a gift. Chelsea responds that not only is it gold, but it is also a true masterpiece, with blueprints crafted from lazurite and a collar adorned with ruby and obsidian. She finally asks if that much is enough to delight him as a gift. This greedy, ugly Molton is beyond happy. He tells her it is the best gift he has ever received. Man, he deserves jail. He instructs everyone to go inside and enjoy themselves, claiming he has prepared many new keys to mark the day they received such a gift. The statue given to Molton was entirely covered in dust. Chelsea had told Dalia that she had been to that shop many times, but no one ever bought the statue. She questions whether Dalia had forgotten what the outcome would be. If they failed to satisfy him, they would have to face severe consequences. Dalia then asks Chelsea what she thinks the statue might be made of. Chelsea is uncertain, but because of its weight, she assumes it might be lead. Dalia then tells her it is made of gold. The upper part is pure gold, while the collar and lower part are formed of ruby. Chelsea struggles to believe this, reasoning that if it were truly made of gold, it wouldn't have ended up stuck in the corner of an antique shop. But Dalia replies that it was the people who failed to recognize its worth, not the object itself. She says they should be grateful to have acquired something so valuable for such a low price, but Dalia adds that there is no need to pay more for it. She explains that the statue might be worth thousands of coins, but the shop owner gave it away for so little, only because he failed to recognize its true value. Had he known it was gold, he would not have sold it so cheaply. And those who cannot recognize the real worth of art do not deserve to be paid generously. All they need to do now is wipe away all the dust and place the statue in a beautiful chest. Once an appraiser sees it, he will confirm its value as true gold. Back at the party, Chelsea asks Dalia a question. She had many good options to choose from, so why did she pick that particular statue? Dalia reminds her that she had already told her in the library she prefers things whose value does not change with time. That, she says, is exactly the value of gold. Jewels are difficult to appraise. People have varying tastes in art, and it is hard to determine their worth at a glance. But that wretched Molton demands that his presence be grand, and gold is precious no matter the era. Chelsea now begins to wonder just how much knowledge Dalia possesses, knowledge that seems to surpass even that of the greatest scholars. It is as if Dalia not only understands art, but has lived through many different eras herself. And then, a loud noise erupts. The sound comes from the entrance. Dalia approaches Molton and tells him they heard a scream. Molton, unfazed, replies that they should have come earlier. They would have seen something fun. Dalia asks him directly if he killed someone. This guy is beyond pathetic. I need therapy every time I read about him. He scoffs and reminds her that he's already said he doesn't kill anyone. It's just that someone who brought a useless gift last year had the audacity to return and offer something equally disappointing. So, he was happy to let them experience the same torture again. He then turns to the butler and asks if there are any more guests, but Duke Farrell still hasn't arrived. Molton mutters that one never knows with him, he always shows up empty-handed. So he, fed up, decided to head inside. There's something about this time of year that always makes him feel refreshed, which makes Dalia visibly angry. She tells him to wait and demands to know exactly what was brought that made him so furious. He refuses, saying that if he tells her, then everyone would know what he hates. And he doesn't want that. After all, he enjoys the anticipation. I am convinced he is a psychopath. Then Duke Farrell finally arrives. He hadn't realized Chelsea would be present, and he immediately asks about Dalia. Chelsea introduces her as her niece, but when Dalia and Duke Farrell lock eyes, it causes him to pause and wonder if they've met before. Yet when she quickly looks away and acts indifferent, he decides she probably isn't who he's thinking of. He tells her he didn't know Chelsea had a niece. She's glad he doesn't recognize her. Dalia says she doesn't enjoy socializing much, but she's heard a lot about him. He gives a polite nod and begins to take his leave, but Chelsea stops him. She brings up a pendant, a circular wooden one with a sun carved in the center, surrounded by moon phases. She says she heard he took it to the antique shop, and it seems to be the same pendant she lost at the square. She explains that it's really important to her and asks if he would return it. Duke Farrell calmly replies that he has no idea what she's talking about, which makes Dalia open her mouth in disbelief, wondering aloud what this man is even saying. Chelsea insists she's certain he brought the pendant to the shop. Farrell admits that he did pick up a pendant, but he's sure it wasn't hers. She asks, if that's true, then how was she able to describe it so accurately? She begs him to return it, emphasizing how important it is to her. He narrows his eyes and says firmly, one last time, that he knows who the pendant belongs to and it's not her. He can't simply hand it over just because she demands it. His words leave Chelsea speechless. Farrell then states that if that's all, he will now take his leave. Chelsea apologizes to Dalia, saying she asked her for a favor but couldn't help herself. Dalia reassures her that it's all right, but she wonders aloud why it's so difficult to talk to Duke Farrell. Chelsea answers that there is no one in the world who can speak to him without being put in their place. Even Duke Molton speaks of him with caution. Now seated, Dalia watches the nobles around her. She thinks there is no point in the ball anymore, and Molton turned out to be far more unpleasant than she had imagined. Then she notices Duke Farrell again. All the ladies are eager to dance with him. She observes how polite he is to them, and even the noble women who hold higher rank than him seem hesitant in his presence. She wonders why, of all people, her pendant had to end up in his hands. To retrieve it, she would have to approach him again and demand it. But she might even lose her neck before she gets a chance to wear it. At least, she thinks, he didn't recognize her. But where is Beluchcci? Just then, another handsome man approaches and says he didn't expect to see her in a place like this. Dalia turns and looks at him, Dalia with curiosity gleaming in her eyes. She asks him who he is, bewildered by the strange feeling that she should recognize him, though she doesn't. The man, amused and slightly surprised, takes her hand gently and reminds her of their first meeting. Even if she claims to have forgotten, he says, the scent of vanilla alone should bring it all back. He is the same man from the alley, the thief she encountered. But he is no ordinary thief, he tells her. She didn't just meet any street criminal, she met the Silver Wolf. He speaks a phrase, the Silver Wolf never visits the same place, thrice in vain, and no matter how well something is hidden, he always finds it. Dalia scoffs at this, pointing out that this is exactly what makes him practically a thief. But he retorts playfully that he only steals the hearts of ladies, nothing more. She is unimpressed, and tells him that stealing hearts still counts as stealing. Then he gestures at the opulence surrounding them, the extravagant clothes worn by the nobles, the overflowing wine, the mountains of food that will never be finished. He asks her what she thinks all these luxuries are made of. With a crooked grin, he explains that he merely returns things to where they truly belong. She raises an eyebrow, asking if that makes him a noble thief, and notes that it actually doesn't sound so bad. She wonders aloud whether he could help her retrieve something that was taken from her. He is immediately intrigued and asks who stole from her. She leans in and whispers a single name, Farrell. He grows serious and asks what Farrell took. Dalia tells him it was a pendant, an unassuming piece at first glance, but deeply important to her. It's a key-shaped pendant engraved with a sun, and she pleads with him to retrieve it before the full moon. He considers this and asks what she will give him in return. She hesitates, wondering if she could offer him money, but she quickly realizes he's too wealthy to be interested in that. In a moment of playful honesty, she says she was about to offer him a gold statue, but he would surely refuse it too. He confirms her guess, saying that nothing bought with money could purchase his talent. He is already drowning in wealth. Finally, Dalia promises to owe him a favor instead, insisting that someday he'll need her talent just as much as she needs his. He sees the confidence in her expression and accepts the offer with a grin. Nearby, Chelsea watches the two with keen interest as they bicker and barter like old frenemies. To her, it's obvious they're on the path from enemies to lovers. Then Duke Farrell arrives. He asks her if he can sit here. She allows him, but it was really awkward to break the ice. He asks her what is she watching. He eyes the scene, saying she's simply watching young people in love. She gestures toward Dalia and the Silver Wolf, suggesting they make a lovely couple. Farrell doesn't respond, his silence heavy. She calls him again, but he remains unreadable. At that moment, Dalia spots Beluchcci and is about to call out to her when Beluchcci suddenly runs off, claiming an errand. Simultaneously, the Silver Wolf turns to leave, but Dalia stops him, reminding him they need to decide a time and place to meet again. With the smooth charm of a natural rizzler, he takes her hand and assures her there's no need he will find her, no matter where she is. And with that, he vanishes as if swallowed by thin air. No man, I will definitely ship him with her. In his place, Elise arrives, dazzling in a dress covered in glitters, every inch sparkling under the light. She proudly announces that the dress is from Marcel boutique. The others gasp in envy. Getting something from Marcel requires an appointment and significant connections. Elise soaks in the admiration, clearly loving the attention. But the mood sours when Adam enters the scene. His gaze, however, falls only on Beluchcci. Elise notices, her smile faltering. Adam approaches Beluchcci, casually asking if it's her day off, and urging her to let him know next time. Elise watches the interaction, clearly distressed approach them and asks Adam to tell, what is he doing, panic. He accidentally spills the drinks in her dress. Then chaos erupts. She shrieks in frustration, demanding to know if Adam has gone mad. This dress, after all, is a prized possession. Adam snaps back, accusing her of jumping in out of nowhere. Beluchcci, ever kind, tries to help clean the mess, but Elise's mother suddenly appears, furious. Her mother scolds her, heartbroken that the dress she worked so hard to acquire has been ruined. She reminds Elise that her father will soon be giving a dramatic speech, and Elise cannot be seen like this in front of everyone. She orders her daughter to go and change immediately. As Elise turns to leave, crushed, her mother delivers the final blow. Troublemakers like her can never look good, no matter how expensive the dress. The words hit Elise like a crash to the heart. She tries to defend herself, telling her mother it wasn't her fault. But her mother grows even angrier. If someone truly poured wine on her, she demands to know who it was. Elise glances at Adam, desperate for support, but he has already turned his back on her. With no other choice, Elise names Beluchcci. Beluchcci, her voice trembling, tells the madam that it isn't true, she would never do something so cruel. She turns to Elise, desperate, pleading with her to tell the truth. But Elise, her eyes cold, clutches her ruined dress and claims to her mother that Beluchcci was simply jealous. She goes so far as to suggest that Beluchcci should be turned into a servant, a punishment fitting someone so lowly. Dalia enters the scene just then, her presence like a sudden wind cutting through the tension. She remarks on how astonishing the family is, and asks whether this house always sells off maids like slaves. She mocks the frightening atmosphere, where a single mistake can lead to such cruel consequences. Turning to Elise, she says that she didn't even listen to Beluchci's explanation. Before anyone can respond, the room is interrupted by the announcement that the much-anticipated and dramatic speech is about to begin. Elise turns to her mother and says she'll be fine. After all, her dress is pink, so the stain won't be that noticeable. But Dalia, watching from the side, has had enough. She shouts that she wasn't finished speaking. However, before the tension can escalate, Beluchcci stops her. She grabs Dalia, tears welling in her eyes, and clings to her tightly. She cries, insisting that she truly didn't do it out of jealousy. She couldn't. The scene shifts to a quieter space, where Dalia now stands, her face flushed with anger. She demands to know what Beluchcci means by saying she plans to stay here, despite the lies, the abuse, the injustice. Dalia admits she usually respects Beluchci's decisions, but this time, she cannot allow it. No, never. She raises her voice, shouting that Dalia knows nothing. Her mother throws wine and chairs at her, and Elise doesn't feel a thing. The madam starves her but still pretends to care by asking if she's eaten. Beluchcci, she says, always calls herself clumsy, always accepts her place, always tells herself she can't dream like Dalia. But enough is enough. Then Dalia asks if Beluchcci remembers the first time they met, how Beluchcci was the only one who helped her when she was on the verge of collapsing from hunger, while the other girls stood by. She tells her that she's a good person, and good people deserve to be happy. All this nonsense about knowing her place is garbage. Who on earth teaches that to a child? There's a long silence before Dalia looks at her and asks if she knows what a dragon is. Beluchcci hesitantly replies, asking if she means the great creature that soars in the skies. Androon. Dalia nods, then asks if she knows what a hatchling is. She explains that dragons who haven't learned to fly are called hatchlings. Then, with a steady voice, she shares a line from her favorite novel. A hatchling that has seen rain clouds no longer remains in the pond. She tells Beluchcci of a legend about a hatchling stuck in a muddy pond, unable to grow or fly. No matter how hard it tried, it couldn't become a true dragon. It sank deeper into the mud until it was indistinguishable from it. But one day, a rain cloud came, and the rain washed over the hatchling. In that moment, the hatchling broke free from the mud and rose into the sky, finally becoming a dragon. She turns to Beluchcci and says, if she waits long enough, the rain will come, but only if she chooses to rise. A dragon may leave the pond one day, but a mudfish never will. It's her choice whether she becomes the dragon or stays the mudfish. She asks if Beluchcci understands. Beluchcci is speechless at first. Then, with misty eyes, she says that it's a little hard to grasp, but she knows that Dalia really cares about her. She apologizes for being foolish. Dalia, smiling, assures her that she's not foolish at all. Just then, a servant comes to fetch Beluchcci for work. She excuses herself, but not before Dalia reminds her to come to the boutique whenever she has time. Beluchcci nods with gratitude. Later, in a carriage, Chelsea nudges Dalia with a teasing smile and asks if she can finally confess about the man she danced with. Is he perhaps her boyfriend? Dalia immediately recoils in disgust, muttering a firm, "Ew, no." Chelsea sighs in disappointment. She had already constructed an entire romance narrative in her mind, imagining them as the main couple. Her words make Dalia groan in embarrassment, hiding her face while Dalia assures her it's nothing like that. They finally arrive at the boutique, but the lights are off. A note is pinned to the door. It's from Marcel. He had an urgent meeting but left some fabric and outfits for her a few blocks away. She only needs to say the name of the swatch she's wearing to receive her items. When Dalia reaches the designated spot, she's stunned to find that the man left behind not a few items but 20 whole boxes. In disbelief, she asks if he moved everything himself. Apparently, some other men helped him, tall, muscular types with impressive physiques. Marcel, it seems, barely lifted a finger. Chelsea remarks that staying in a place like this can't be considered safe, and insists Dalia should come to her house. Chelsea bids her goodnight while Dalia lingers, looking thoughtful. She remembers Marcel's words that he would never lie to her. Still, she wonders why he couldn't have simply told her where he was going.